Tao.
Here.
Senator Good. Senator Johnson. Senator Seeley. Senator Kintan. Senator Collis. Senator Warner.
Here.
Senator Hebert.
Here.
Senator Higgs. Senator Bob. Senator Mercer. Senator Paul. Here. Senator Pesco. Present. Senator Dominguez. Senator Imtiaz. Here. Senator Estigi.
Proxy.
Senator Christensen.
Here.
Senator Pope. Senator Hoja. Senator Meyer.
Here.
Senator Hickey.
Here.
Senator Rowell. Senator Nassar.
Here.
Senator Vega. Senator Cronin.
Here.
Senator Hogan Fleming. Senator Schmidt.
Here.
Senator Trenny.
Here.
Senator Whitty. Here. President Abdulaziz. Present. Vice President Kramer.
Here.
All right. We got a busy meeting, so we're going to move into presentations, and the first one is by Dean Henry Morris.
Hello again, everybody. I want to make sure when we set up this, we had 45 minutes. Is that your understanding? Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were in on
I know you time.
Okay, so again, welcome. I hope everybody's semester's gone well and moving forward. I said earlier that we would come back and give you updates on how we're doing with the whole diversity and inclusion plan, as well as the climate study that was part of it. My co-presenter today will be Robert Colbert, who is one of our consultants for the climate study. He was the actual person who's also one of our institutions. What year did you graduate? 7? So he's alum of our place. And he led the qualitative part of our survey. So some of you in the beginning, in the fall semester of last year, may have participated in some focus groups in the qualitative part of our beginning of our climate study. And that climate study helped to give us a baseline of some information, and we use some of the baseline information to create our quantitative survey, which we did in the spring semester. You remember that? Hopefully a lot of you took part in that. And then this fall semester, he's coming back now and doing a follow-up on the data that we found in the quantitative. And we're doing a little deeper dive into the survey, and we're finding out, we're going back, oh, this is what we thought we heard, are we correct? So we're trying to get some affirmation of that. Now, I want to be real clear with you, because sometimes we're in a community of researchers. Lots of people with lots of degrees that deal with research. So research reliability is really important and understandable. And so I just want to share with you that the climate study was just one of many tools we're using to help us move the institution forward. It isn't the most important tool, but it is important tool. It's just one of many tools we're using to help us better understand what's happening on campus, so that we can begin to move the institution from where it's at to where we want it to be. We do know, as an institution, that we have an opportunity and success gap. As an institution, we know that. Data shares with us that we have those things. We know that we have a rather low 4-year graduation rate for all our students. And we have a 6-year graduation rate that our president wants us to get higher. So we know those kind of things. And we know that there are things that are standing in the way of those students being successful with those kind of things. We know that we have some retention issues with our faculty and employees of color. We know those kind of things. And this survey, both the qualitative and the quantitative, were just ways for us to begin to understand what's happening, so we can move forward with our next 3 to 4 year diversity plan to close that opportunity gap, to improve the overall success rate of all our students, and particularly what I'm dealing with is our students of color. domestic students of color, as well as how do we increase and retain our domestic faculty and staff of color. So that's to give you an overview of what we're doing. We are going to be using this semester, the spring semester, to write the next 4-year plan with the goal of bringing that to the meet and confer process in fall of 18. Have to go through all this, the meet and confers and shared governance, and then to implement it in the spring of 19. That doesn't mean we're not doing stuff now. It's just that's the formal plan that, we will formalize it as we go forward, but we are still working on stuff now that we found out and that we are thinking we can do differently and better as we move forward. One of the questions that people asked me is, was there anything shocking in the survey that came out? When we first began to talk about the survey, what I shared with my colleagues in the cabinet and my colleagues on the Council of Deans, and I think even with your group, let me tell you what we're going to find. We're going to find that different groups have different responses to the university. And that particularly our diverse students, color, our international students, religious, whole bunch of LGBT communities respond to the institution differently. And why I can say that, because unless we're really different, that's what almost every climate study across the nation says. I didn't think we were different, so it was not shocking to me when they told us that. The one thing it did show us, I don't think it was totally shocking, because I think David Jones with veterans, so we knew we had some concerns with veterans who were raising some concerns, and that the survey, it came across that group was a dissent, but I know we were already beginning to work with them with the student affairs with that group. So we're here to give you some more information to let you know where we're at. Ultimately, what we're going to ask from this group is, we're asking for other people, again, look at the survey, see if it's your reality, and let us know where it may fit in what you're doing and what you think. And Robert will give you some more opportunity to share with that right now, but also in the future as we move forward. In January, we will have 4 open sessions, community listening sessions, where we will bring all this data together and invite the community to share with us. We will share with the community what we found and all our different things, and then ask them to give us some feedback. And so we will invite you to participate in those open sessions as we go forward. Any questions of me that I can answer quickly? Okay, Robert.
Senator Waters, you have
I just had a question. When will those January sessions be announced of the dates?
Before we leave next week. And then again when we come back.
So anyway, I am Robert Colbert. Started out, basically, I think we started doing some sessions with both students, staff, and faculty administration. I think it was like last November or December, so it's been a process for doing that. The survey, I was helpful in trying to kind of come up with questions, but what I want to talk to today is kind of the process we use to try to do both the qualitative and even following up into the quantitative, which I think is important. I had a chance to meet with a number of students, I think it was on November 9th, so that was, are there any students here that participated in that? Okay, well, great, okay. So at that time, what we did is we tried to verify some of the results from both the qualitative and the quantitative sessions. And so what I want to do is at least show some of the responses that came out of the verification session today, but I think I have to go through a little bit of everything quickly in order to do that. So first thing I want to do is talk about what the process we used was. And so, first thing I think, can everybody even see this slide? Okay. Okay. It may be hard to see, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it nice and simple. But the bottom line, when you think about diversity, everyone talks about, we got to have these different types of people and different types of ideas and different this and different that. But when it comes down to diversity, that's kind of the form side of it. What I call the substantive side is really what's inclusive. How do you feel included in the process? It doesn't matter, how different you are, or it doesn't matter how same you are. If you aren't really included in the process, and it really doesn't have a lot of meaning. So when it comes down to, do you have an environment, and I call it a healthy environment or collaborative environment. Do you have an environment that can actually, allow people to feel welcome, allow them to take risks, allow them to make a difference? Those are the kind of things that, if, as a person, if someone can look at me and feel like they're dealing with me that way, I feel like I'm included. All that other stuff is kind of subsequent to that. So what I call that, in that bottom corner, if you're really going to have sustainable diversity and you want to have a heterogeneous environment, you have to have a collaborative environment, and then you have to have diversity inclusion. So without a baseline, and that, Henry mentioned a lot the word baseline, that's important to know. What is the baseline? So a lot of questions we ask are, designed, we don't ask questions like, do you feel discriminated against? Because you're going to get different responses from different people. But, do you feel welcome? Do you feel like you can talk to your peers? Do you feel like you can talk to your instructors, that type of thing? You can get a baseline off of that. And then on the survey side, you get demographics to say, okay, well, the people that were, Caucasian students answered it one way, the people that were African American answered it another way. Then you can kind of get some difference between there. But you got to know that the baseline is good in general before you can start trying to build a more inclusive culture. So that was kind of the process of how we did it. That's what this slide is supposed to be about. The other thing we did, and you've got this one in front of you, it's more of a green and a white sheet. It talks about, influential areas that really we tried to do from the qualitative side. And it was a number of them that we talked about. How good are your facilities? How good is the campus security? The resources that you have to use, the leadership. How do you feel about well-being and having healthy relationships here? The academics, which obviously is what you're here for, and not the only thing you're here for. And then embracing others with differences, which really does get totally into the D&I side of it. But the bottom line is that there's a lot of areas. So what I wanted to show you is that we tried to organize this in a way that says, okay, well, what does that mean for facilities and campus security? Well, is it clean? Is there sufficient campus security? That kind of thing. And you go down the list. I'm not going to go through them because I really don't have enough time. But what that did is it just gave us a way to categorize information that we were finding out. And in that, what we wanted to do is we wanted to understand, basically, what's the climate here for, and what's it going to be as an impact to diversity and inclusion, and how do we assess barriers? And I had two associates with me, and we're big on assessing barriers, because what you find out that diversity and inclusion is tantamount to change. You basically are doing something different than the status quo, and that means that you've got the challenge of going up against what's familiar, maybe the old power structure, those kind of things, and that always creates that kind of challenge that is going to be hard to keep going forward. So what we have to do is make sure that we understand what those barriers are, and then you can start addressing them. So we used a process that really had we had sessions that were centered on the areas that you have on that green sheet there. We wanted to make sure we know how welcome they feel, how supported they feel, and how willing they were to take risks with themselves and others. So what I did, and this, I don't know how quickly I can go through this, but here, so the first one, on that list, it shows that facilities and campus security. So basically, and I'm only doing the students here. I mean, obviously, I've got the administration faculty, but there were some advantages and there were some barriers. So I'm just going to go through one advantage, which they talk about. The students really talked about how gratified they were with the facilities and basically how things are here. My eyes are kind of going bad too, but the upkeep. And so, they talked about all the areas such as the International Center, the Student Union, those kind of things were really considered favorable areas. On the barrier side, there were female students that talked about concerns over security, the systems, the warning systems that allow for if there's any type of assault or issue, and then those policies that help support those. They also talked about, what in terms of campuses, how do you kind of make sure you have enough study areas, both in the library and the student union. There were a lot of things. So I can't really take time to go through this right now, but I can provide this summary to you. The group that I went through on the 9th, I went through all this with them so that we get to a point where we could verify this. But I just want to show you some of those results. Let me I have to go as quickly as I can. So the campus resources on the good side, and if you read it fast, but bottom line, we talked about people being really positive on being able to manage and navigate their educational process. So talk about study abroad programs, cultural programs. I think even the fact that you can have a meal program that allowed a balance too, those were considered positives. Maybe on the barrier side, they talked about how do we make sure we have enough scholarships? How do we make sure we have enough search tools in order to go after the advisors, work-study compensation? There were things that were mentioned as barriers. So again, to feel included, you've got to have all that in the process. On the side of institutional leadership, they talked about how leadership, basically, they recognize that there's a passion by the leaders here to really focus on the students and focus on the education process, and also focus on diversity and inclusion, which I didn't say there, but you see it all over the place. That doesn't mean everything's going well. It just means that there's a lot of good focus, which is a good thing. But they also expressed concerns over the access to administrators, being able to schedule time with facilities, talked about consequences when maybe some of the instructors and professors maybe aren't behaving in the way that would be the best for the community, those kind of things. So there were things mentioned as barriers as well. And then in the well-being side, they talk about, everybody talks about, there was a lot of talk about appreciating both the facilitators and the directors of the programs, and having opportunities to participate in inclusive programs, which, when I come here, I'm like, wow, that is so cool to see how many things you have going on here on a weekly basis, which is really impressive. On the barriers, they talked about the debt, the living obligations that create stressors, healthcare needs. There were a lot of things that were mentioned that could be barriers that could be dealt with to make this a more inclusive environment. They also talked about the need for more campus-wide events. So, you have a lot of groups kind of doing their own thing, but how do you kind of do more things where there's collaboration between all the different groups? Academic side, not everyone, but we heard a lot of positive comments about the general education course offerings and how they can satisfy diverse cultural requirements. We also heard a lot about the expanding international programs and the things that they do within the College of Business to kind of get out there and, you got your real world thinking, you got that real world opportunity as well. On the barrier side, they were talked about some of the concerns about advisor programs and maybe some of the interest, how to, and I think the idea is, everyone's got, where's your mind share at? And so it sounds like there's more mind share needed from advisors, not necessarily that they're bad, but how do you get the interest in the progress? And I'm not going to go through as many more, but again, we can provide this to you. On the side of the D&I advantages, I think those are pretty, I'll say self-explanatory. The advantage side, there's a lot of things that are going on here, and a lot of ways that you can explore different cultures, different ways of thinking, that type of thing. So there seemed to be a lot of that ability to pursue whatever you needed to do around, understanding different people and different ideas. On the barrier side, there's how do we do more things that are targeted towards diverse faculty and staff? more diverse leadership within the institution. And there was also the sense that what could this institution do to be more of a leader around even going out in the community and saying, yes, we want to help the community become more inclusive and diverse. And so those were important. And now there was also this mention about some of the, maybe the fraternities or local law enforcement having more awareness and sensitivity in the ranks. So that came out as well. So all that being said, it led us to kind of say, yes, what do you do with all that so that you can make sure that this is a more inclusive environment? This now goes over to the other side to get the quantitative. How much more time do I have so I can make sure I'm
You're good.
Okay, good. Okay. So on the quantitative side, the one thing, and I've already kind of mentioned, but the process was to make sure, first of all, that you want to have a process that isn't too unbearable to take. So there were a lot of questions, but at the same time, you try to keep them fairly simple, and you wanted to minimize any person feeling vulnerable. So you don't ask them, well, do you feel like you're really having a tough time? It's like you want to ask things in a way that people feel like, if I answer this question, it isn't, I'm not going to have to pay a price for answering this question. It really does allow you to talk about something that you feel is important. How do you glean the values that are important and resonate with students? How do you make sure that you know what the barriers are that impact the values that are really stated well for this university? What we wanted to do is make sure that, as in the survey, that you could sense how safe you feel on campus. Again, how welcome you feel. And important thing, can you take risks? Can you kind of go out there and grow in this university setting? That's important. That's what inclusion's all about. The other thing is that, I talked about making a difference. That's more on the staff side, but it really applies to you as well. So do you have adequate tools and resources to really navigate this life here on college while you're here? And then make a difference beyond your days here. So those are kind of the things that we look for on the student survey. So the other, you've got another sheet in front of you too that talks about all the questions. But before I get into that, there were 1,740 survey responses, and there were quite, and that's probably 10% of what was sent out in total. But out of that 1,740, 21%, or maybe a little over 350, were responses from students. Okay, so that's the best I've got for student data. But if you look at the 1,740 in general, they kind of split it into majority, minority. And you can say sex and gender there. You can see that's a higher number for majority versus minority. So in this case, majority doesn't mean, let's say, who's traditionally overserved, which would be, in a sense, white males. It means whoever was in the majority. So females would be on the majority side here. But race, ethnicity, you can see that there were some numbers there, and majority, minority, 22% were minority. Sexual orientation, religion, disabilities. So, just like most of those things, the minority percentage is lower than the majority percentage, except, again, females are considered in the majority under sex and gender. So let's go to some of the things. Now, in the other sheet you have in front of you, basically talks about these, and you're going to need to reference this in order to see some things. So there were 22 questions. I've kind of highlighted, in a sense, what they were trying to accomplish with the objective of that question. So you got that on your sheet. But here's a way to look at it in general. So out of all the responses from students, there weren't really responses that said things are terrible here, because you'd have to be down to strongly disagree to say, yes, this is not working for me. But for the most part, things were above the both equally agree and disagree. But in relative sense, you can see, like, let's say question number 1, question number 9, those kind of things. So if you look at, let's say, question number 1, fellow students who don't know me make me feel welcome, it didn't have as high a response. And And there may be a lot of reasons for that, but the bottom line is that it's important to say, how welcoming is the environment, and what can we do to make this environment even more welcoming, especially as you have different types of people coming on board. Again, is it number 9 that's kind of low there? Okay, so number 9 was fellow students who don't know me appreciate the qualities that make me unique. Same kind of response. And then number, let's say, I think 18, 19, 20, 19. So 19, my professors understand that my personal life can affect my schoolwork. Well, that's obviously important to know too. So, but this is the response of everybody. So that doesn't, break down to how the demographics work. I'm not going to go through this slide, but what it does is it talks about the highest responses and the lowest responses. I think I just hit on some of the lower ones that were there, which were 9, 19, 12, and 1. Okay. But what I did is I tried to split them up by, what were you trying to accomplish? So how welcome do you feel? The first 6 questions talked about that. And you can see in this case, probably the lowest one was, the sense of, fellow students that I don't know, appreciate me or welcome me. On the second side is how safe do you feel? For the most part, students feel safe, but at the same time, there's a difference when we get to demographics. So again, this is something I think if you want to get this information, Henry can provide it to you, but I just want to show you how we split it up between growing, taking risk, and what do you have the research to make a difference. But here, now we get into some differences. And so, in this case, you can see the sex, gender, majority, minority, and again, females being the majority here, but for the most part, you can see that majority responses tended to be a little bit higher than minority responses. And I consider this more of a skewed one because females are considered in the majority. But throughout the thing, you can see that, what does that mean for differences? And rather than try to, I don't really have time to go through them right now, but let's just say that you can kind of make those distinctions between if it's race, ethnicity, there's a little difference. Now, that doesn't mean that the people who are considered minorities in terms of race, ethnicity, don't feel like they've got some things that they're satisfied about. It just means in comparison to the majority, maybe not so much. Okay, so we did that for, there were a number of areas we could have done. I just picked out a few to kind of go through, but I think disabilities was one of the tougher ones. People that identify with disabilities, they saw some differences versus those that do not. Religion, probably not as much. So anyway, what I did is when I got together with the group on the night, I asked a series of questions, and we really went through the number 1, 2, and 4, and basically asked them after going through things, which I had more time, what data points let you know that Mankato, Minnesota State University Mankato is going in the right direction. 2, we asked them, what kind of things you see that you need that have concerned you. And then the last question, which, 3 was kind of answered by 1 and 2 usually, so was what needs to be further investigated. So what I want to do in my last few minutes is go through what the responses from that group were. So what data points let you know that Minnesota State University Mankato is moving in the right direction? And basically, overall, students did feel welcomed by others, peers, faculty, and staff. They identified, and this is the group that was with me. What is your name?
Kayla.
Kayla, okay. The group that was there, and I think we had a group of about 10 people, and we split them, and so they kind of came back and said these are the kind of things that really stuck out in our minds as saying that the university's moving in the right direction. So students who identified as minority races had responses that were close to the majority groups. Students who identified as minority races and sexuality feel they can approach their professors for help. That seemed to be something that is a good thing. Students that have a number of safe spaces on campus, that was an important thing. I think that was it for that. And then I mentioned the second question is, well, what concerns you? And And I think a lot of the concerns that, we found that there were less favorable responses that had that appreciation by fellow students, which we've already brought up. But, and also, not only fellow students, but faculty for unique qualities. And to me, that's a whole thing. If you want diversity and inclusion, you got to just appreciate the person themselves. If somebody can't look in my eye and see me, and then it doesn't matter all those other things. So you want to be able to kind of have them see your qualities. Minority students consistently rate lower in campus safety, and there seemed to be a foundation for what's the foundation for good learning environments. And make sure I get that right. Camp safety. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of losing track of that, but that was the second part of that, foundation for good learning environments. So they rated lower up there on that as well. The lowest responses were concerned interactions with the faculty administration. So that that was a little bit of worrisome there. And I already mentioned professors understand how personal lives can affect schoolwork. And then there were thoughts expressed that some advisors and faculty aren't as interested in the student progress. And I think even though that's being said, perception is part of what we're talking about here. It doesn't mean that an advisor or a faculty member isn't interested in you. It just may mean that, whatever the dynamics of the stressors and everything else that's going on, it doesn't allow for that to come through. So that's something that can be worked on. Lack of diversity in faculty and staff, which, I think you probably can see that without having to ask that question. And then, the other thing was brought up is that there's a low student survey participation. So to have 350 students or thereabouts take the survey, that, you would, if we're going to get representation and response, you want to be able to kind of have everybody give their responses. So that's a worrisome number there that hopefully can improve over time. And then there was a lack of representation, just like there was a low survey response, there's a lack of representation for minorities. So those are the kind of things that I learned from Kaylin's group, group on the 9th. And the last thing they talked about is what could we do to investigate more to understand the climate. So one of the things they said, well, hopefully we can get demographics across the board that have a better representation. And that was a concern that maybe we could do something better about. So give more demographics. Can we get more, can we clarify with people who have a different sexual orientation than, let's say, whatever was considered the majority, and clarify and identify with the people who have disabilities, that how do we find out what a lot of issues that they're facing are. There's a question about, which when you have low numbers, trying to do intersectional analysis is just tough. But the bottom line is it would be nice to kind of split apart data and try to see how data fits together. What does a white female student say different than a black female student type of thing? And understand basically what that lack of student interest is in survey participation. I think as a student senate, that's something you could take up. What is it that either makes you more interested in providing your feedback on instruments such as this, or less interested in what can we do in the future to kind of solve that? And I guess the other thing is just make sure that we can assess the commitment level of professors and advisors towards investing in students. And again, I think that's something that has to be investigated, because bottom line, it may be not be a lack of interest. It may be a lot of things to do, a lot of things going on. But we're here. The institution is here to kind of serve the students. So how do you move forward like that? So this is the information I found out from that group. I'll be doing a staff session. I'll be doing a faculty session, kind of similar to this. But again, if you want this information, Henry can provide it to you. So I will stop there. Any questions? There's a lot of stuff. I went through stuff very, very, very quickly.
Senator Alden Fleming.
Yeah, I'm curious. So I think this is great. I like some of the information that you have provided. But I'm intrigued to see what's going to be worked to represent the demographic of minorities here on like a public front. So for example, the 50th celebration in the CSU was a wonderful thing, but in that video that we watched while we were, learning about the CSU, I didn't see any minorities in it. But then I went to the Black alumni meeting afterwards where I found out there was a database of minorities that were here at the university, and I don't see them represented in photos or pictures across campus. So then I think it's interesting that we want to, participate in this and get feedback on that, but we don't represent our students on the public front of them seeing themselves as they are also attending here.
Yeah, and the things you're mentioning right now are the kind of things when you have verification sessions, those are, write that down, because why not? Why not have that type of representation? And those are things that are going to help. So I don't have an answer for that, but at the same time, by the fact that you're bringing it up and giving that feedback, the question could be asked. So okay, I love the question.
So I just had a question. For your follow-up meeting, is it possible that you could do a stratified sampling technique? Or would that not, are there limitations to that too?
Yeah, because the numbers are, by the time we get down, so it's going to be a challenge to do anything stratified or, the statistical significance of what we get down to when we start stratifying might be kind of tough. But, and in fact, just to keep from identifying people, they kept things in majority, minority columns just for the survey. So even I couldn't get that data. But I think the thing is hopefully more people participate, we can get more of that kind of data.
I think some of the challenges, and remember, a lot of this, that's why my preamble I talked about, this is going to be a baseline for us, so when we do it again, hopefully we will get more people, we will respond differently, more people will respond to the survey, and it will be a baseline for us, this one, and we'll look at it and look at it as we go forward. One of the big challenges we had, and it's a culture that we have and we have to respond through, is the whole issue of one of the questions that came up both in the qualitative as well as of confidentiality. People know who I am, who's responding. That's always important in any survey. And I do think that affected our response rate. Some people concerned about, if I said X, will the president get to know that I said X, and will he be upset with me, or my faculty member, or somebody. And so I don't even know the responses to all of these, who did any of these kind of things. I don't even know who was at the qualitative meetings. So we try to really work on confidentiality because we understand the importance there. Because if you don't feel confident that you can give honest answers and not be worried about negative repercussions, then you're not going to respond. And so hopefully as we go through the process, that's one of the things we will work on in the next 4 years as we gear up to the next one is people feeling comfortable what they share with us. There will be no retaliation about what they share with us. Other than that is important information for us to know to get better as an institution, a community. And to your question a little bit, there was at least one person of color in that, and that was me. I used to be the director. And so I was in the video. But those are questions I know Mark would be interested in hearing. Other people, your perceptions, because your perception is your reality. Whether that is somebody else's reality, that is your reality. And those are important data points for us to know. How you're responding to a community where you're in the minority and how you're perceiving, even though some people may think, oh boy, we're inclusive, you may not see it that way. And so these kind of things are important for us to hear that. And so we, as Robert was saying, that we use those data points to help us move forward as an institution. Other questions?
Are there any other questions?
Thank you. And again, if you want some more detail, we will gladly share with you. And if there are other ways we could do it, please let us know. Thank you for the opportunity and time to talk with you tonight.
So the CSU board had actually requested to speak second, so I'm going to allow them to go.
Alrighty. Hello, Senators. Many of you know that I'm the chairman for the CSU board, and this is the Vice Chair Cole. And we're just going to give you a quick update on what we've been working on. We'll make it sweet, simple, quick, stuff like that. So we've heard multiple budget presentations from various departments within the student union so far. Each and every one of them have been very detailed, straightforward, and very formal and lots of information. With that being said, beforehand, each department manager reviewed their proposed budgets for the fiscal year of 2019. The next step will be for the board to review them as a team and work on any suggestions or questions that we may have. And then, with that being said, both Mark and Teresa have provided continuous guidance and continuous information to both Cole and I and the rest of the board to help us keep moving forward. So once we have reviewed the presentations fully, we'll vote on the budget and then present that to the Senate in the spring.
All right, so Emily covered the budget aspect of it, but we also serve as we also review policy regarding the CSU. So recently this semester we discussed things such as composting within the CSU to try and become more environmentally friendly. We also had interest in quiet reflection space from a few groups. There are also a few awards that have expressed interest in displaying plaques in the hallways and awards. And we discussed the mural discussion on the first floor as well.
Is there any questions, concerns, anything for us?
President Abdulaziz?
Thank you. So where are you guys in the conversation with the reflection space?
What was that?
Like, where are you guys now in the conversation with the reflection space?
So right now, we're actually currently looking at what other universities and schools are doing regarding those issues and looking at every option we can to give the students what they want and make it functional and have that provided for them in the near future, hopefully.
Is there any other questions? That are good?
Sorry. For mine, with the composting and the CSU options, would that be through the current provider? I think it's JLP. Would that be through the same company for composting, or has that not been?
I'm going to direct that question to Mark.
Yeah, they would be involved with the discussion for sure. We've started a conversation with dining services with Carrie, and actually at our last meeting, which is this Friday, we're going to have a little more feedback and information about that, but they certainly would be involved depending on what kind of options we have related to that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, thank you so much for your
Thank
presentation.
you.
Hey guys, my name is Reese Belter. I'm the RHA president here on campus. If you don't know what RHA is, it's Residence Hall Association, kind of a student council within the people that live in the res halls. This has been a 4-week process with Cindy, Jamie, and the people of Res Life to talk about next year's 2018-2019 room and board budget to see what increases, decreases, and stuff like that. Like I said, this is a 4-week process, so it started on October 30th. Cindy, Jamie came to discuss what the people wanted, what our reps wanted throughout the next year living in the res halls. Countless things were thrown out, like free printing, TVs and floor lounges, and stuff like that. And so that was the original takeaway from the first week. The next week, she brought back some more stuff about what we want in the res halls, and we gave her more information, and that was that week. The following week after that, she gave us a sample ballot to take away to our residential halls and our floors, so that way they can decide, the whole floor can actually see what's on the ballot, what's going to be on the ballot, and see what they want in the floors. And then we took a week off for Thanksgiving to kind of give them a full 2-week kind of process. And this last Monday was our last meeting. We voted on what was going around, and Cindy, if you can hand out the ballots, please. So Cindy's going to hand out what was on the ballot. Starting off, it was all this was a yes or no. Thank you. Starting out was a yes or no. The base rate was explained at RHA, and I had an opportunity to ask questions about it. 29 and 1, yes, no. Another one was the RHA promotional item, one item provided to each residence hall student. That it would add $5 to the base rates. RHA voted yes on that, 26 to 4. Also on that was the upgrade desk equipment for checkouts such as games, sporting equipment, pots, pans, and utensils. Now it added $1 to the base rate, and that was passed as well, 29 to 1. And then everything else was more of a no. Started out with free printing. Currently, all students pay a student technology fee. The fee covers the free printing, sort of say each MSU student gets $20 to printing per semester. And then vote yes or no for adding $10 per semester for 200 more free single-side black and white pages per semester. Total printing for Res Health students would be 600 black and white semester, $1,200 for the year. Add to the base rate $20. That was no. 7 to 23. That was the vote. Next was dining center guest passes. It would add 2 guest passes per semester to the 14 meals per week plan and an anytime plan. Currently, 160 meal plan students can use a meal swipe for guests. All meal plan students can use dining dollars for a guest as well. And it was either vote yes or no for add 2 student guest passes per semester to the 14 meal plan and anytime meal plan. Each guest pass costs $10. Meal plan rate increases by $20 per semester, $40 for the year. It would add $40. That was actually a really toss-up in a tie. It was 15-15, but we decided to go no because for those 15 that don't want it, why would they have to pay if they didn't want it, stuff like that. So in the outcomes of a tie, we go with a no, just because of the added base rate of $40. Keep going on that. The added TVs and cable service to full lounges, that was a no. It would add $47 to the first year for the base rate, just to install and all that, get the cable installed in the walls. And then future rates, future years, it would add $6. That was a no, 10 to 20. And then the ice machines on third floor kitchens. It would add ice machines to third floor kitchens in the following locations: Crawford A, B, C, and D halls, McElroy E, F, G, H, Julius Sears South Purple, Julius Sears North Purple, and Prescott I, J, K, and L halls all on the third floor. It would add a base rate of $35 per student in those areas, and that was a no as well, 12 to 18. So these are our propositions to you guys to kind of take away, kind of get what RHA talked about the past 4 weeks about adding to the base rate of 2018 to 2019. Are there any questions at all?
Any questions? President Abdulaziz?
It's just like, it's not a serious question, it's just like a little question. For adding $5 to the base rate for the RHA promotional item,
Yep.
If I'm not misunderstanding, that's a water bottle, correct?
It changes every year. So last year was a water bottle. So what the promotional item is it gives RHA a chance to kind of put their name out there for every student in the res hall. So every room and every person gets a little promotional item. Last year was a water bottle. This year it was a laundry bag that had our logo on it, and so it can change every year. I believe it was $3 for it was $3 right now, and so adding 5 would be $8.
It would become $5.
It would become $5. My bad. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I see no other questions. Cindy, do you have something?
Just a clarifying point. So when I was here and I handed out that chart of rates, my budget officer had added, assuming that historically what has happened is that students have voted for the RHA promotional item and the desk equipment. And since the RHA promotional item used to be $3 and the desk equipment's always been $1, she added that $4 in to what you saw. Now so the rates will be $2 more than the page that you saw. So in the interest of our forests, I did not print out that big graph showing $2 more, but that's what the proposed rates are proposed to be. So, and I take this as Residence Hall students' advice to me about what to propose to the Board of Trustees, or what to propose to my Vice President to send forward to our President and then to the Board of Trustees about what Residence Hall rates would be.
One last thing. Reese, President Abdulaziz had asked if you could one last time say which ones have been voted yes or no on. Is that okay with you?
Yes, of course. The first one was an understanding of the opportunities asked at RHA. That was a yes. Sorry, first 3. Thank you.
The rest are no?
Rest or no? Yes.
Thank you, Reese.
Yep.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you both very much. United?
Hello everyone, Mr. Speaker. My name is Faisal Rayani, and I am the State Chair of Students United. How many of you all have been a part of Students United or have attended our delegates this year? Outstanding, that's like 70%. Good job, guys. So for those of you who don't know what Students United is an organization that represents all the students across the Minnesota state system for the 4 years universities. We represent you on the state level where we advocate to House reps and senators. We represent you on the federal level where we do our annual DC lobbying trip. And we represent you on your own university level where we do campus visits just like this one to advocate for you. And this year we've done something new. So our organizational structure is we have board directors on top. We're a nonprofit organization. And our board directors dictate what we do. And those board directors are formed from your university presidents. So President Abdulaziz is a board director, and he represents Mankato. And those are the people that make the decisions that run our organization. And the board directors got together and they thought 3 issues were most important to students this year. The first is affirmative consent. And that is basically consent, but more specific, more firm, and more affirmative. Minnesota State has a really good consent policy, but it doesn't go as far as to say that it is affirmative. And so our hope this year is to put that on there. It wouldn't change any way that Title IX officers and investigators operate, but it would change the culture and it would change the way we look at consent, because 1 in 5 women in college will be sexually assaulted, and that's a statistic I looked up. I tried looking up opposite statistics just to be like the devil's advocate. There was one article that said that it was false and bogus, but then there was like 6 research articles that had pretty good sample populations that say 1 in 5 college females will be sexually assaulted in college, and that's ridiculous. That's too much, and that's got to be addressed. So that's one of our board objectives. Our second board objective is textbook affordability, and that just says that every board director will come back at the end of the year with a textbook affordability plan. And that's hopefully will bring down your textbook costs, because textbooks are expensive and tuition's already expensive. So textbooks plus tuition, that's just another expense that we have to pay for. And textbook providers pocket a lot of money on that. And our third and final board objective is the carbon commitment, which is a promise that university presidents make to make our university carbon neutral. And so we come to your campuses every year to do our campus visits. This is our Mankato campus visit. I used to be a student here. I still am. I still go to school here. I forget about that. I got my Mankato tie here. Don't let your schooling get in the way of your education. That's right. That's my favorite quote. Sorry, that was a lot of shade in one sentence. We also have 3 big delegates conferences, and those conferences are like student government. It's like student government on steroids. It's just like this, but it's all the student governments on steroids. Yes, all the student governments get together and they decide the other important issues for students. So we debate, we argue, we discuss, and we advocate. Most importantly, is that we advocate. This year we're doing something different with our delegates. Our Vice Chair Lexi Byler would probably speak better to our delegates because she runs them.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the vice chair. I go to MSU Moorhead. I'm happy to be here today, though. And for those of you who went to delegates, you saw that we tried out some new things. And I want to thank you all for being open to trying new things. We're always trying to improve. And for those of you who have been to delegates in the past, meeting for 10 hours is not effective. I'm happy to say we cut it down to 3.5 hours, which was a big accomplishment for those of you who have been in the past. But yeah, so delegates is where we have representatives from all 7 universities based on student population size. So Mankato and St. Cloud are the biggest schools, and they get 10 delegates each, and then it goes down from there. And that's where we, basically the Delegates Assembly advises the board and tells the board of directors what you want us all to work on. And so this really is an organization led by students, and that's why our Delegates Assemblies at our 3 conferences every year are really important, because I know it's hard to believe, but this is really where students have power, because you all and the board of directors, all students are the ones that lead this organization and tell us what we're going to be working on for the upcoming years. And so our next one will be in February, and then after that will be April. So if you didn't go to the one in November, it's not too late. We'd love to see some of you there.
So I guess we just want to encourage you to come to delegates, be part of Students United. You could be the next state chair, you could be the next vice chair, get involved in our organization, be a campus intern. We are your union, we represent you. Like, this is our job. It's just like the IFO, except we don't have as much bargaining power. We have influence though, we have a lot of thoughts. Are there any questions? We will stand for questions.
So, all of the motions that were passed or not passed over the delegates, is that on the website now?
Yes, absolutely it is. On the top, on the website on the top, there should be an About section. And under the About section, you'll find all the motions. And whether they pass or not would be up to the Board of Directors. So the delegates recommend motions to the Board of Directors. The Board of Directors then approve or deny them.
From this last delegates though, are those up?
I believe they are.
Because I'm not sure they've been updated. We have that, so for those of you who were not at delegates, was it last April, I think, there's a motion passed that tasked the organization with creating a document that has every single motion that's been passed, which, if you can imagine, student government on steroids is quite a bit. And so we compiled all of it, we categorized it by different categories like equity and inclusion, sustainability, etc. And so I guess I can't confirm if that's been updated yet since our board meeting was just before the break. But it will be updated very soon because we didn't have an overwhelming amount of motions, and so it should be up to date and ready for viewing. So it'll be there for your preparation for the next delegates.
Which is February.
Which is February.
Thanks.
Senator Woody?
Thanks for coming. Nice to see you again. What determines how many delegates each school has? Because I know in the past I think it was credit-wise, and now it changed, and then our number went up since last year. So what ultimately determines that?
Yeah. That's a really good question because this is something that confuses people, especially smaller schools who are concerned about the number of delegates they're getting or losing. But it used to be based off of full-time enrollment, but now it's based off of head count. And so I don't remember exactly when that change was made, but that is how it is based off of total head count because not all students are full-time students. And so now it's based off of head count. And St. Cloud, we had some schools where enrollment went down, and it's based off the average. So they average the total and then divide it by each school's. So they total the head count at all the universities and then divide it by the number of their enrollment. And so, like, even though Bemidji and Moorhead's enrollment did go up, those schools didn't get an extra delegate because it's averaged out. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you so much for your time.
And Mr. Speaker, if you'll allow it, we'd like to do a chant. We've done this at every university we've visited so far.
Yes.
Thank you,
I want
Mr.
Mankato
Speaker.
to be left out.
Here we go.
We put this on Snapchat. Every university has done outstandingly well. St. Cloud did it in 1 try. Winona did it in 3. So let's see how good you guys can do. So, yeah, we'll do a practice run. So when I say students, you say? When I say students, you say? Students. 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 Oh, stay. Got it? You ready for the new run? Ready? Students! United! Students! United! Students! United! Woo! Thank you. That's right. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm going to call everybody back to order, and we'll now open up open forum. Is there anybody here for open forum? Yes. Go ahead and take the podium. Access to your projector. Sure.
All
I'm not 100% sure what that animal is.
It's a unicorn.
What? It's prehistoric. That's all I got for you. Anyways, my name is Sean Fisher. I am the president of the MSU College Democrats here. This is my vice president, Emma. This is my secretary, Bethany. And we would like to propose a plan that I think would be very helpful for the student body. And I'm going to start it out. This is a plan that would to help people who are affected by the Trump administration rescinding DACA, which is protectionary acts for people who were born in a country for like a year or so, and then they only lived in their home country for like a year, and then they immigrated here to America, and so, but so this is really the only country they've known. And just so we're on the same page, I'm going to play an informative video for you guys. If I can figure out how to do those slides. All right, just give me like 2 seconds.
Try right-clicking on things. Try it.
Try right-clicking?
Yeah, maybe.
No, I'm going to use YouTube. It'll be okay. Or not. Or you. All right, you know what? I'm offline now. Great. Okay, you know what? Technology's not working for me. I'll just explain the plan. It's fine. So first of all, raise hands. Does everyone know what DACA is? Because that's all the video was, really. It's just, okay, great. Okay, we're all on the same page. The video doesn't even matter anyways. Cool. So basically, so DACA is an executive order the Obama administration put in to help kids who were born in the country, and then they came here, and it was to give them immigration status, and it helped them basically be able to live their lives without being in constant fear of deportation, right? And now, the Trump administration announced that they have plans to rescind that plan. And so how does this affect MSU students? This is obviously going to, decrease their academic performance, because if they're worried about being potentially deported, it's going to make studying harder, obviously. This will directly affect enrollment and graduation here, because this is going to, in fact, affect students directly, because they aren't going to be able to go to college if they don't have DACA to be able to ensure that. And this will potentially result in deportation, and they could get sent back to a country which they are not familiar with at all, in the slightest. Simply a country they were born in, and then they by all means, they were Americans. They were born in that country, and then they lived here their entire lives, and then the ICE could essentially just show up at their doorstep and take them back to that country, and they just it's just not their home. So what we should do here, pretty straightforward. I propose we give students free access to legal support. I think we need we have lawyers here, but they aren't immigration lawyers. And I don't mean to call the law office or anything, but I tried contacting them, and they were very flaky, and they don't actually take court cases. They'll just consult you. So they'll just basically meet with you, but they're not actually gonna. You actually have to pay them if you want them to actually go to court with you. So that's obviously a barrier. So I think the best thing we can do is actually get an immigration lawyer here, and then from there it's basically like running a giant ad campaign. We just want to advertise it as much as possible. I know you guys have a lot of resources for that. I want to posters, flyers, videos, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, to make sure that these students know where to go to get this legal support. Because these students are people who don't necessarily want to be found, so we want to make it so they can have so we're advertising to them, if that makes sense, so they have a place to go rather than we trying to seek them out, because that's not a great idea. DACA is ending as early as March. This impacts 800,000 students nationally. And this will impact future children, students, and current alumni. So just something we should take in mind here. Not to throw any shade at anyone here, but to be fair, Davenport did pledge his support for DACA students within the Minnesota State campus. So, I mean, let's put some action and like some drive behind those words. Because at the end of the day, all of those are words. You know, he says he's going to support them, but I'm just here to ask how. How exactly is he going to support them? I mean, you guys might not love my plan, and I don't know how the logistics of the school works and what the budget's like and all that stuff, but at the very least, we need to do something. We can't just sit around here and not do anything. And I'd like to think that this is like a progressive campus, a campus that wants to help out these students, and I think just, I mean, we have an entitlement to help these people. So yeah, these are my references. So yeah, do you guys have any questions?
So we do have two. First will be Vice President Kramers and then Senator Good.
Okay.
Thank you guys for coming. So a couple things that I just want to touch on. First, we don't know how many Dreamers we have on our campus. We don't keep that data.
No.
And then our lawyers that we have are only contracted for consultations. That's just what we pay them for. Which is unfortunate for the students who are looking for legal advice on immigration, since that's not their area of expertise. And then thirdly, and my final thing, we are in the process of trying to get an immigration attorney here to meet, like,
That's
maybe once a
excellent.
semester.
Yeah.
So just to keep you guys up.
Yeah, I actually talked to Mimi. There's Mimi. I actually talked to Mimi about that. Yeah, so I'm just here to kind of like push that agenda forward. But how far is this immigration? Like, are they going to do more than just consultations? I guess.
Can it?
Yes.
Okay.
That would all be worked out with the contract through the attorney, which we do not have.
Okay.
I'm assuming since legal fees are very expensive,
Right.
limited student fees.
It's not a cheap fee by any means. No.
So I would assume that they could probably give them advice, but probably not be their attorney.
Okay. So this would just, I mean, and that would be great.
How far along is your contract with the immigration lawyer?
Would you like to stand for the vote?
Yeah. We're just beginning the process. We're researching right now.
Okay. Because I can't imagine the anxiety levels that, you know, of course we don't have that access to that information of how many Dreamers are here, but I can't imagine the anxiety levels that these students are facing. I mean, the fact that they could be deported soon. So I just think as a campus and as MSSA, you guys need to do something to ensure that, like, hey, like, we're going to do something to ensure your safety and your well-being as an actual, like, campus.
We're going to continue on with the speakers list. Senator Good.
Yield to redundancy.
Proxy Johnson.
Sean, I like this concept, but
thank you.
Are you willing to get out in the community and see what kind of community support there is for this kind of effort?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, you've got a lot of community organizations around town that have been involved with immigration, like Lutheran and Methodist church organizations. There's a potential here we can increase the fund that's being looked at here to make, to look at paying for, it would probably be best to look at getting an attorney on a retainer basis, and then you pay him for the amount of.
Right, and that is what I want MSSA to look at.
I do request that you wait until speakers are finished speaking before responding to them, just to make our process go smoothly.
But, I mean, we have a break period here now that could be useful in looking into some of these organizations, see if they're willing to add some support to this effort. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, no, I'd be willing to reach out to those organizations, but I think MSSA should also be reaching out to those organizations. I mean, I think you guys got elected and have a responsibility to these students. And I just want to make sure that that you guys are thinking about this and how the Trump administration is vastly changing the face of how universities are being run. And as a university, we need to make sure we're standing up.
I have Senator Dominguez and then President Abdulaziz. Senator Dominguez? President Abdulaziz?
Yield to George.
I'm over here.
Hey.
I have a couple questions. So, and one comment too was, there is an institute here on campus called the Kessel Peace Institute. It's run by Dr. Carol Glasser. She's a faculty member of the sociology department. And I think a week after this announcement was made, she tried to do something very similar. I actually don't know, I can't remember what the outcome was. But I remember she had difficulty with finding a lawyer and contract talks. So, I mean, it kind of shows that there's been two sides to this going on, and that it would be helpful to get MSSA involved, but to get like a lawyer to come and do services almost like pro bono would be, you would need some, almost like some fundraising or something like that.
Yeah.
Also, my second question is have you talked or have you done any research with people who are of DACA status?
Yes.
So you do know, like, do they need this? Is this something they need?
I think it would be something that's helpful, yeah.
Okay, because I think it'd be helpful because I do know some people who are DACA status too, and it'd be helpful. Do they actually need legal service? Because I know a lot of people say they do, and I believe them that they do. But, or do they need access to services? Or do they need, rather than providing them with a free lawyer, you could provide them funds to see a lawyer?
Yeah, there's
multiple routes to do that, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I keep interrupting. I'm pretty bad at this. Yeah. So basically, it's really encouraging, first of all, that other people have like looked at this problem and tried to solve it. But I'm really just here to just show you guys a problem that's going on, and I want you guys as a Senate to struggle with these issues and figure it out. I guess if that makes sense. I'm really just here to show you this problem, tell you like my input and what my idea is, but I think you guys just need to be doing something.
Can I chime in here?
Yeah.
I just wanted to chime in additionally, DACA students must pay a $495 filing fee even to get these forms submitted. So for many students, that's impossible, that they don't have the funding, and I think that that's where MSSA can really step up and make a difference.
And like, I'd be super happy to collaborate with you guys on everything. And like I think we could do some pretty awesome fundraising events. I think we have a very open-minded campus that'd be willing to pitch in and help out. And whatever can help these students, I think we should try something. I get that. That this is a public school and that like money is very tight and hard to come by these days. So I think we can figure out the financial aspect of this.
All right, real quick. So I'm going to do Proxy Asnici and Senator Collis, and I'm going to close the speakers list. Proxy Asnici.
Hi, my name is Joe. What was your name? Sean?
I'm Sean, yeah.
Sean. Throughout your conversation, you kept saying my ideas. Is it your ideas or is it College Democrats as a whole?
It's College Democrats as a whole. Okay. We collaborated. Dude, that's a fair point. I'm not trying to take credit on that.
I'll yield.
Senator Collis, you've got the last point.
I will yield.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody else here for open forum? Seeing none, we'll move into the approval of the consent agenda. Any dissent to approve the consent agenda? Senator Higgs?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make amendments to add Senator Meyer and Senator Higgs to the Senate reports.
Okay, there's an amendment proposed to add Senator Higgs and Senator who?
Meyer to the Senate reports.
Is there any dissent to adding Senator Higgs and Senator Meyer to the Senator reports? All right, amendment approved. Any dissent toward approving the consent agenda? Agenda is approved. Moving to officer reports, President Abdulaziz, you're up first.
Thank you. I'll make this short. Just four things on this. The first one, of course, like State Journal stated, so students are going to visit day, so we've been in meetings all morning until the Senate meeting. We met with President Davenport, the director of Title IX, the bookstore manager, just to basically talk about the kind of two key initiatives that we're pushing at the student united level, being affirmative consent and the kind of having a textbook affordable, like having our own individual textbook reserve plan, which is textbook plan in general. If you guys are more interested in talking like the affirmative consent agenda that we have, this is the proposed policy for the 1B3. So I'll hand this around. You can have a look at it. So we talked about that. We got President Davenport's a ton of perspective on all the issues, and of course the bookstore. We just talked to them before the Senate meeting, and they were talking about something that's currently still being worked on, but it's really stressing kind of OERs, so making it digital, making it more affordable for students, and making it easier for faculty as well. Another one, of course, our Set of the Week. So we have two. First one is Sociology Club with George. So go ahead, George.
Hello, everyone. I'm the guy in the corner who keeps asking questions. So first of all, thank you for nominating us as one of our So's of the Week. But so I'll just be here to tell you a little bit of what Sociology Club is. Sociology Club is a club part of the Sociology Department. We're a discussion-based club. So what we do is we talk about big ideas. Actually, our first event that we had, our first meeting, we talked about DACA, and we watched that video. And we talked about it from the sociological perspectives to the larger social forces that are involved and why certain things happen. Other things that we do is we try to go on to events. So we look up protests that are happening within campus, within Mankato, and in Minnesota's in general. We try to drive up there and we protest and show our support for different things we believe in. We also do a lot of professional development. So we go to a lot of sociology conferences. We went to SOD, Sociologists of Minnesota, and we're going to the big one, which is MSS, Midwest Sociological Society, where myself and a few others will be presenting papers in front of professors, and so that'll be a cool experience. We are open to all majors, so everyone can join. With my plug right there. But yeah, are there any questions? No? All right.
What time do you guys meet?
Well, we met this semester on Wednesdays 2 to 3, but it shifts every semester as schedules changes. So it also really depends on faculty, because a lot of the faculty come in on our meetings, and we have graduate students who join our meetings too. So we have a multi-layer of education.
Senator Thompson?
Do you have like a Facebook page or anything?
We're on Facebook, yeah, thank you. We're on Facebook, so you can find us just Sociology Club MSU, join. We have a group chat. We do have a Snapchat. No one uses it, so.
Senator Pascal, did you still have a question?
Get to redundancy.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then we have the Environmental Sustainability Organization.
Yes, so I'm just going to stay here, if that's okay. But yeah, so I talked about ESO before, Environmental Sustainability Organization. It's newly created this year, and I'm the president of it, so thank you for allowing me to speak about it. But yeah, so the Environmental Sustainability Organization, basically it's just an interest-based club where we talk about, or we support environmental issues and just the environment in general and the betterment of it, and we also promote sustainability. And yeah, so basically during meetings, we do some like education, we just talk about future events and stuff like that. So something that's coming up actually tomorrow that I'm super excited about is our plant potting party. So it's tomorrow at 7 p.m. in CSU 202. You get a free pot to decorate, you get a free plant, there's free food. We're going to talk about some of the benefits of plant life, and we're going to have like a little documentary in the background, and then just hang out. So really excited about that. Come, invite all your friends. We're also on Facebook too, MSSU Environmental Sustainability Organization. And yeah, something else that we're doing is we're doing a MAVRIK Holiday Carnival. It's just like a family fun event, and just interacting with kids, talking about the environment and recycling, fun stuff like that. We're planning on doing some recycling plant tours, so really excited about that too. And just like I said, just the education and outreach and just trying to work on recruitment and retention this year since we're so new. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, so next up,
First question? I didn't see it.
Yes.
Senator Plasko?
The plant nerd in me wants to know what species of plants you have available.
They're spider plants. that
Spider
we're planting.
plants,
Yes.
awesome.
So they're really good. They produce a lot of oxygen, so it's yeah. It's good. It's good for studying. Good for finals.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alright, so next on my list is talking about the retreat. So like you guys probably remember I was talking about it earlier. So this year I think it would be super beneficial to have 2 retreats in the year, one for one semester, one for the next semester. So I booked for January 19th. I booked the room. It's right next door, like this room on the other side, the kind of one that's connected. It's on campus. It's on a Friday. But I booked a place from noon to 8 p.m. But like I'm thinking of it being 3 to 8, somewhere more in the afternoon when people are more available. But like it could also be from like noon to 4. So like we're still playing around with the time, but like the set date will be June 19th in June. I'm sorry. I don't know days anymore. January 19th. So like the 3rd week of January. And then, so basically that's going to be where we've already had a first retreat where we already talked about with being senators, like your responsibilities and obligations. And then this one's going to be more of kind of building on that and now knowing your position and knowing what you have to do, kind of what your legacy will be. John's going to keep talking about that next semester, like what legacy do you want to leave, and really focusing on like what you want to do with MSSA and kind of leave an impact. And then furthermore, we had a lot of conversation about like transition reports at our cabinet meeting. So finding a way to cut the learning curve short for senators, since our elections every single year and people do come in, some returning, some not returning. Thinking of, I know the executive, we do transition reports, but why not have one for the senator positions? So like, have a binder, have like a little case, have a binder, have it say SBS senator, CSET senator, things that have already been worked on in there, put it in there, things that you're working on currently. And also it's really good, it's kind of like a good reference to go to for things that you want to do, and then you can go through to see if it's already been done, see the context that's already in there. So kind of leaving a transition report for the different senator positions, and that'll be something being worked on next semester. This question probably pertains to this.
Senator Whitty, is your question pertaining to this?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So would we be compiling all Res Life Senators compiling just to one transition, or each of us write one, and then whoever becomes the next Res Life Senator will get 5 of them?
It's not for 5 people. It's for one position.
Okay, but like we'll all compile it and give it to them?
So you would put anything of relevance, anything that helped you, places you found resources, a person or a specific faculty, administrator, somebody that's been crucial to your position as a Res Life Senator. Or like going to RHA would be good for talking to constituents. That could literally just be a piece in the binder.
Can I reword this?
Oh, yeah.
Like, will they all get all 4 of ours?
It's one.
It would be a collaborative.
That's what I'm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's one. So you guys will all just be adding to it.
Awesome, thank you.
So to answer Senator Good's question, we'll write it?
Yeah, sure.
So my question was just about the January retreat, being that it's today's secondary retreat, but it also be mandatory.
Yep.
Okay.
Continue?
Yep.
Okay. So continuing on from that, if you have any questions about the retreat or anything I've said so far, please, of course, come talk to me afterwards. So then there's the transition reports, and then lastly, I just want to, they're not here, but Faisal and the Student United crew that kind of spent the day here, I just want to kind of give them a shout out, big thank you for coming to our campuses. I know it takes a lot of work to go to all the 7 different state universities and kind of talk about really broad initiatives, and it's really difficult to do that when different campuses have different climates of working. So kind of just give them a shout out. They're doing really great work, especially Faisal, our very own Faisal and Vice Chair. So they're not here, but let's just all just give them a round of applause. And so with that, are you?
Are there any questions for President Abdulaziz? No questions, we'll move into Vice President Kramer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll also make mine short. First of all, I want to say good luck on finals. I know mine's already started, so good luck. I need it. And then so, since you guys have probably all registered for classes for next semester, please keep in mind that we always meet at Wednesdays at 4 o'clock until 6. Try and keep that open if you can, otherwise let me know or let Mr. Speaker know. And then as well as your committees, if you need to be removed from a committee and added to a different one, let us know and we can change that up for you. We'd like you to stay in your own committees or even add one if you want to. Otherwise, delegates was super awesome, fun time. Thanks to everyone who came to delegates and the 50th gala. My feet wanted to die a little bit, but it was okay. We ate amazing food, and I got to shake Amy Klobuchar's hand, who's our senator, which was really cool. And then congratulations to our very own Mr. Cowan for winning an award. And with that, I yield.
Are there any questions for Vice President Kramers? No questions, I'll move into my officer report. Just have a few things. First, I'd like to say thank you to the Dean of the Day, Dean Haar.
We wish you luck during your exams and hope you have a great break.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to this very long meeting, Dean Haar.
I missed the long meeting.
We have Senator of the Month, so can I get a drum roll? Senator of the Month is Senator Bob. Congratulations. We do have to get you the plaque tomorrow. But Senator Bob has done an outstanding job this month, but also logged the most office hours, not just this month, but out of any senator for the entire semester. Please keep put on your calendars March 14th. That's the tentative day for when we're going to be having a long budget meeting. And so hopefully that doesn't change. Hopefully it will stay March 14th. But I want to say this in advance because it is incredibly important that you're there. And this is a long meeting, so you do have to budget that time out to make sure that you don't have homework or any other obligations. And then last thing I'm going to say is, so we have every senator report in the world today, and part of that is my fault. I'm sorry that we didn't do a better job organizing it. So coming up this next semester, we are going to do a better job organizing. I have a sign-up sheet for next semester, and everybody's going to sign up for 2 days that they wish to give senator reports. Now, I get that this isn't entirely ideal because, and you can always come to me and say you want to give a senator report if you have something fascinating or something interesting to share. But this is a good way of making sure that we're on track to get all our senator reports done. Because do remember that next semester there will be elections, and our last meeting will be April 11th. That we'll be able to actually give our senator reports. So we have less meetings next semester than we did this semester. And I don't want to do a million senator reports in the last meeting because I think that we all know it's not entirely time efficient. Somebody be passing this around. Please sign up for 2, and preferably spread apart. Are there any questions for me? Senator Fleming, you're going to say that you wanted to pass that way? No? Okay. Any other questions?
How would we be sure that we'll be able to complete those dates that we put it right now? Because semester might come, and then what if something else comes up? And
That's a good point. So here's what I'm going to do for them. Here's kind of how I'm brainstorming it. This is different from what I've seen before. So I haven't seen this before. Similar to on every agenda, how I would put all the office hours, or like when the office hour due dates are. So I'm going to do that again next semester. When are all the office hour due dates? I'm also going to do like 1 or 2 meetings in advance which senator reports are coming up. And I'm probably not going to talk about it. It's just going to be on every single agenda. So even if you have a proxy, have your proxy give it to you. It's just a reminder. If you do have something come up and you can't give your Senate report, obviously let me know the Tuesday before Senate meeting, before noon, and we'll make sure to move you around. So this, I will be flexible with this. This is just to try to get us to be organized so we can have roughly 5 Senate reports a meeting rather than having 26. Any other questions? All right. Speak the devil, we're moving into Senator reports. First person up will be Senator Owen Fleming.
She wanted to pass a motion.
We do that, and then you can bring a motion in new business.
Okay, it's fine.
So do you have a... Oh, she wanted that.
No, nothing.
All right. I see what you mean.
Okay, hi, I'm Caitlin. I went to delegates over this last 2 weekends ago, and sorry, hold on, let me compose myself. And it was good. So we did a lot of interesting work. I had never gone before, so it was really great to see kind of what it's about, the structure of it, and kind of learn more about the value of our jobs and kind of the value of our jobs at like at a higher level. And then I sat on the diversity conversation, and it was interesting to hear kind of the progression of diversity here versus diversity at different schools. So I'm someone who cares big about diversity within all, intersectionally within all avenues, and it was interesting to hear that, like, for example, Bemidji has an issue with KKK flyers going up and KKK logos being a thing on their university campus. So I thought that was very interesting to see that, like, we are making progress at our school, even though we do have our own issues. There's still, like, a balance of that. And it was interesting to see some of, like, the other schools and the issues that they have, and kind of just how each university takes their time and is working through these intersectional diversity issues that they have on their campus.
Are there any questions for Senator Owen Fleming? Thank you for your report. Senator Whitty.
I went also into the Students United Fall Delegates. I was actually at the table for the Diversity Advisory Committee. This is my 4th delegates meeting, and it has definitely improved. I thank Lexi for that. I also went there mostly to talk to St. Cloud, because St. Cloud has gender inclusive housing, so I was getting further updates on how that is going on. Right now it's having some trouble, so I'm trying to see what caused that and how, if we were to get it here, we can prevent it. I also attended the parking committee a few weeks ago, and I brought up the lack of busing to Stadium Heights, and how Stadium Heights, even though it is residential life, it gets kind of forgotten and kicked out. So I brought up that it is res life, we are part of campus, and that we should have the shuttle. So hopefully I can get further information about that soon. I just believe that our first priority living at Stadium Heights should be coming to campus, and I hope to get that soon. Also was discussing, because I was also bringing up how we could change that. I understand shuttles technically aren't supposed to go on campus, but that is campus we need to start treating Stadium Heights. So I'll be talking to more people at Stadium Heights, because I know they've been feeling cut out a lot and not feeling as though they're part of campus, and I think that's kind of terrible that we're such a strong, our res halls, main campus, very strong, very welcoming, but once you get put in Stadium, or if you choose to live there, you just get completely cut out. So I'm going to work on trying to build better relationships with Stadium and make them feel more, include them more with campus. So with that, I yield.
Are there any questions for Senator Whitty? President Abdulaziz?
So what work is currently being done with the gender neutral and gender inclusive housing?
Sydney Jane and I have been emailing each other back and forth, and she also knows the people in charge of Res Life at St. Cloud and other universities. So we're currently looking at changing one building at Stadium Heights to gender inclusive, because that would be the easiest and most, the fastest way to start this process. We're hoping to start that next fall. Another thing we've already touched on was we started on, when you apply for housing, there's a section that says having an LGBT-friendly roommate is rate how important this is to you, and that is also helping put these students in safe housing, and that helps just kind of give us numbers on if this would actually be useful, having gender inclusive housing completely, or if it's a big issue. Another thing is pointing out that this will probably be mostly allies that will live here, not necessarily gender inclusive students. So we're just looking at the numbers. So it'll start in Stadium, and then hopefully we might be able to move it to main campus, but with bathrooms, that would be the hardest thing, that we have to update bathrooms.
Yes.
So when you, in terms of just like what you said, Stadium Heights and having it start at Stadium Heights, gender inclusive housing, what does that mean? Does that mean that when I'm applying, that it's specifically going to be Stadium Heights, gender inclusive housing, and then I can
like, I just want to know what that means, because I'm kind of confused how they differentiate between
So
now
right
and what.
now, it also changed where you pick your gender. It says male, female, and then there's also a little asterisk that says if you do not fit the binary, call Res Life will help you take care of it.
Yep.
What we're hoping to do is that we just want to make the application process a little bit more inclusive. With saying like right now you can pick if you want to live on a floor of just your own gender or if you want to live on a co-ed floor. This would just add in, instead of just co-ed and gender, like your own gender, you can pick gender inclusive, which will also like explain like you'd be living in a room with someone that might not be the same gender as you. So it'd be, for lack of better terminology, maybe a boy and a girl, or maybe two people that don't identify with binary at all. So that would just be like a check mark that you can click, and they would also know that it would only be at stadium.
Yeah, I'll just follow up later.
All right. Any other questions for Senator Whitty? Senator Rogan-Swamy?
Clarifying question. So I'm curious. So for example, if I'm someone who doesn't know a ton about LGBTQ community, LGBTQ+ community, and I read that, what if I don't understand what that's asking me necessarily, and then I pick like, yes, I'm okay with this, and then in reality I'm not? Like, how do you then work that out?
We do already have room changing options, because I know that's happened many times where sometimes students get put on the co-ed floors and realize, oh crap, I did not mean to do this, just accidentally. So we do have a room change process already, so it would just be that easy. Also, adding on to this is that the CAs being put in charge of these areas will also know that this is what area they're being put into, and they'll have to, we're hoping to get like the ones that would actually be okay. You won't live in this area if you're not okay with it. You'd only be, I strongly am okay with this. Does that answer your question?
Any other questions? Thank you, Senator Whitty. Next is Senator Good.
All right, so first I'm going to apologize if my voice or if I end up coughing, because I'm still getting over a bit of a cold. But anyways, so President Abdullah talked about a transfer portfolio. That was a motion that was passed last year, but it isn't a mandatory thing. So it's really great that we're actually doing that. Just happens I brought one with me today. This is for the Ethics and Standards Chair. When I wrote it, it was based off of learning from Abdul and Cynthia Calais. And I'll pass it around. It kind of just generally outlines everything that is done, some kind of somewhat guidelines and rules for that chair, but it also outlines what can be done for the committee as a whole and like what options they have. And it also includes like the Constitution, bylaws, operating policies, and then an example of a summons letter. And so this can also, like Abdul said, be done for like different senators too, which we thought last year would be really important. So this is an example. If you do want to see a copy of this, it's actually written in here. It either stays with the Ethics and Standards Chair or in the office. So if it's not with Christina, it's probably in the office. I unfortunately didn't make anything on it that says anything about ethics and standards, so I got to change that. But I will pass it around as I finish my report. If you want to take a look at it, kind of get an idea if you do decide to do a transfer portfolio. The other thing is also, so went to Students United, and this year went to the Environmental Committee. And it's an ad hoc committee, and wrote a motion, not sure if it passed or not, about it being a standing committee. It didn't pass. That's really sad. Okay. Anyways, so, but along with like other motions that was made, it was really cool to see the environmental committee. And I also really want to point out that we did talk about DACA at Students United, and it was rewritten by someone from us. Rewritten, and it was passed to make sure that everybody from every student's the Senate, thank you, no one said anything, from every student's Senate makes a letter identical to what President Abdul did. So just so we all know we are doing something. No shade. And the other thing is so this semester I kind of want to reflect back on MAVRIK Adventures. Everybody's kind of heard me talk about it a lot, probably maybe a little bit from Joe too. And so this year, it was a rough start, not gonna lie, and it was solely my fault. But we did pick it up, we did get some good turnout, and we we're getting more individuals that are very open to talk about their ideas, which is really great from my perspective, from what I see. And so next year we're going to be moving it to every semester or every week. Wow. Next semester moving it to every week. There we go. We're going to probably getting in more detail about the different pilot programs we're doing. I think we're doing three pilot programs next semester. I'm going to be as much more transparent this upcoming semester about the meetings. We're going to try to figure out a day and time as soon as we possibly can, and that way you guys don't have to commit to going to every single time, but if you guys just want to kind of pop in, see what it's all about, learn more about MAVRIK Adventures, or if you want some more people to come to it, I'll try to be more transparent with that this year. But if you do have any feedback on MAVRIK Adventures at all, with meetings or any questions, let me or Joe or
Nice.
sorry, I always forget. Or Senator Thompson about, because she's also sharing that, I always forget. But yeah, let us know if you have any questions or any feedback on that. And take a look at the portfolio as it's passed around. Make sure Christina gets it back. With that again.
All right, we're going into questions real quick for Senator Good. Senator Abdulaziz.
Just a quick comment. That's actually a pretty amazing reference to have because it will be exactly like that. And I just now came up with the fact that when we do our retreat, everybody will just get into groups and then just add it there. So we'll have binders at the retreat and then come up with whatever pertains to your position and stuff, and then we'll just be making our binders there, just adding up to it.
Are there any other questions for Senator Good? All right. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to the next Senator report. Senator Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, we had the Allied Health and Nursing Student Advisory Board the week before Thanksgiving, and there's like a lot of updates from the various majors and organizations throughout the college there, and so as MSSA, Victor wasn't present, but Shelley and I had talked about the MAVRIK Adventures, and I was transparent with them, but she had relayed that we talked about the T21 tobacco 21-hour approval, or not approval, or what, I guess approval, that's the word I would say. Okay, yeah. And then, I guess sports management is doing a lot of things with the Super Bowl, and they're going to be doing a lot of activities related to the Super Bowl in January, so that's really neat. I didn't know about that. We have some upcoming events on March 28th. We have a health and biomedical summit, and I don't know very much information about that yet, but we have a date for it. Emily Frederick was elected as the new director of the communications and events in our college, so that's pretty neat. With that, I yield.
Any questions for Senator Thompson? All right, seeing no questions, we'll move into the next report. Senator Kintan.
How's everyone doing? My name is Samson. I'm the one of the College of Business senators, and my report is based off my meeting with the Dean of College of Business. Her name is Dean Flannery. We had lunch this past week. She paid for it. That was nice. So we talked a little bit about some of the programs the College of Business is planning on adding for next semester, and like the things they've been doing in the past. One of the things they always do is they have like lectures. So like they invite like faculty members and they give out like I can't remember the name. It's a lecture for like pretty much the highest faculty member of the College of Business, and they get to like speak in the Australia and they talk a little bit like about like a research they're working on. So she talked to me a little bit about that and like some of like the people they're considering for like the one they're going to be having next year in the spring. So that was really cool. And then also there's a program they're working on with IBM, which is like a business analytics program, whereby they're trying to like work with IBM to pretty much have like Mankato offer a certificate for people whereby they're interested in business analytics. You don't have to be a College of Business student. That's one of the best part. You could be an engineering major and still like enroll in a few classes to get that certificate, and it's only going to be like 17 credits. So that's going to be available very soon. So with that, I do.
Are there any questions for Senator Quintan? All right, seeing no questions, moving to the next one, Senator Collis.
I am also a college business senator. There have been quite a few curriculum and requirement changes in the college business. You can talk to me if you want to hear specifics, but it's meant to be more transfer student friendly. Dean Flannery also noticed, I think, on the climate change or the climate study, that the College of Business is one of the least diverse areas of the university. So they are looking to start a diversity committee within the next semester or so to try to increase it. I know the climate study said it's on the rise. But yeah, I'll deal with that.
Are there any questions for Senator Collis? All right, up next, Senator Hebert.
All right, mine's pretty brief. In my undergrad here, I was a part of the handball organization, handball club here, and every semester they would bring a woman to handball night. That's always been a really big success, and there's a few graduate students on the handball team now that have been through there when I was with them, and they wanted to kind of do something else about working on getting graduate students active, stuff like that. So we kind of worked together, created kind of like a bring a friend or handball night where it was all like seniors, super seniors, and then graduate students that came and showed up, and a lot of them have been have kept coming since then. So then it worked really well, and that's something that we're looking at continuing next semester. So.
Are there any questions for Senator Hebert? All right, Senator Pope.
Okay.
Next we have Proxy Pope.
So his report is that he was asked by an administrator to talk to the quarters and see if they're going to be building a weather shield at the bus stop across from College Town. And they said they were almost finished and will be done with the shield before the beginning of next semester.
Are there any questions for Senator Pope's proxy in regards to the Senate report? All right, Senator Christensen.
Alrighty, so I have been approached by multiple off-campus students who most likely have me on their social media, because if you haven't already, you see tons of pictures of my dog, Miles, and as many of you know, he's actually my companion animal. So they have approached me wondering how that whole process looks and whether or not they are able to apply for something like that, or if they'd have to go through a different route to have it just be a pet, not a companion animal, because there is a difference. If you don't know the information about that, you come to me for specifics, but there is a big difference. So with that being said, with the companion animals being higher on the rise, like more and more people are getting them, they're trying to implement dog parks and more of the off-campus living areas. So they're coming to me to figure out ideas, figure out how popular this idea may be with other off-campus students. Will it bring more revenue there? This is a new project, so there's not too much going on right now, but it's been brought to my attention, so yeah.
All right, are there any questions for Senator Christensen? Up next is Senator Rowell. I don't think it's here right now. Senator Vega, you're up next.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, hello everybody. Hope you guys are having a good day. I find today was pretty crappy. I'm going to report about two things. First thing is how was the outcome for the tobacco 21 letter that we sent to Senate. And what the Council Montrose response was that the public meeting went well. They really appreciated our support, so he wanted me to tell you thank you, so thank you on his behalf. The timetable for both city councils, both in Mankato and North Mankato, were set to look at ordinance, or they're going to be looking at legislation, how they're going to be able to change it. There was also like about 50 people showing the support for the legislation, so thank you if somebody went. And the second thing I want to report is about my activities for the legislation affairs. The first thing, as it was previously mentioned by some fellow partners in this legislation committee, that we're working on an event that we're trying to bring candidates for the gubernatorial and municipal election that's going to happen in Minnesota next year, 2018. So we're going to bring candidates so they can discuss with students, discuss about issues that are related to students' life and community. My role in this process is going to be community outreach. I've already been in contact with some neighborhood associations so they can help us out, spread the word in the communities. We'll be nice as many people coming. And the second thing I'm working on is, well, the second thing the Legislation Affairs Committee is putting their eye on is an event that's gonna focus on advocacy. So we're trying to get more involved students into the legislation affairs, talking about the state and federal and municipal level. So something that it was pretty cool that this idea was, it was inspired by the Students United Delegates Conference, where they kind of went through the legislation process and how we can reach out to our representatives in the government. So they told us how we could contact our politicians, how we could message them, and how it would be more likely for them to respond. We would the Legislation Affairs Committee would like to see this here. So we're trying to make this a whole event a week where we're going to inform the students about issues that have to do with students' life, right? For example, the affirmative consent that was mentioned before, the tax affordability. Another one that was important was the cut for education. Wait, I'm getting lost here. Okay, the cut for public funding education. So that's something also it's happening around the government, and we want to inform students. So this event is supposed to be unbiased. So we're just going to inform them about the issues, and wherever they want to, if they want to call in support for more cuts in the public education, they can do that. But that's not our role. It's not our role there to tell them what they should advocate for. So we're just trying to make it as neutral as possible, inform them, and at the end of the week, we're gonna give them some tools like we got in the Student United Conference, how they could outreach to their politicians, how to organize, need to organize, and how to bring these issues to the table. So yeah, and the last thing, a little lengthy, is I was contacted by the editor-in-chief of the Reporter, and he's looking for, he's organizing an event called Role Media in Politics, and this is supposed to be a panel of discussion. And as the topics or as the topic of the event already, this kind of gets it up, it's basically the media in politics. And he's trying to open discussion about it, and he's looking for a moderator and panelists. So any MSSA senators that are interested in doing this with him, let me know. I will contact you guys with him. And yes, that was my report. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Senator Vega? All right, seeing none, we'll move into Senator Cronin's.
So a couple weeks ago, I had a resident approach me from RHA, and they're a transfer student from some school in South Dakota. And they, at their first university they attended, they were a part of a learning community that they really enjoyed, and they were hoping to speak to someone about expanding the types of learning communities we have here. So for those of you who don't know what learning community is, it's a group of students living on a floor that are enrolled in a number of same courses, and they all share a common major or discipline. And so this resident and I, we worked together, and we're planning on submitting a couple of different learning community proposals before the end of the semester that they had at their previous university, and then also ones that I have talked to people who work in different residential life departments in the Midwest area that I know. And yeah, so stay tuned if those get approved and added.
Are there any questions for Senator Cronin? Senator Cronin?
That's more of a comment. The director of the learning community program is here. Yep, and I'll be speaking more about that in right now.
Senator Hickey.
Okay, so my report is about a class that I'm in this semester. It's called Self-Defense for Women. And I learned last week, the day before Thanksgiving, that they will no longer be offering the class because the professor that teaches it retired or is retiring. And so myself and about 6 or 7 other students from our class went to the College of Allied Health and Nursing just to kind of express how important the class is, and we wanted to go in and tell them that we understand that it may be difficult to find a professor for the class, but if anything, the class should be made mandatory for all students rather than taking it off the roster of offered classes. In the years she's been teaching it, she she not only teaches confidence in women, but she teaches women how to speak up for themselves, how to recognize domestic violence, how to recognize sexual assault, sexual misconduct, anything like that, and how to practice bystander intervention in her courses. And so when we went in to talk to the College of Allied Health and Nursing, it was really impromptu, like wasn't a set up meeting, since it was kind of like a new piece of information. But I got the chance to speak with a couple people, one of which I believe was the dean. I'm not super familiar with all the faculty in that college, so I could be incorrect. And we expressed our interest in it and wanted to know, and I kind of asked if there's anything that I as a senator could do to assist with finding faculty. And she told me that it wasn't that they hadn't had anyone, they couldn't find anyone to teach the class, it's that they hadn't advertised or told anyone they needed to hire a person for the class, and that they were just going to kind of let it go. And so basically, this is just kind of like a first step. I'll keep y'all updated on in spring, but I want to take steps to make sure that this is a class that is kept, because every semester that's offered, it fills up within a few days of being open to students, because it is, so many people consider it so vital. That's kind of the gist.
Senator, Cindy, do you have a question?
Yes. What is this? What's the name of the class?
Self-defense for women. It's HP 139. Was that right? 130. Yeah. And the professor who teaches right now, her name is Darlene Z. Something. Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Senator Hickey? All right, we'll move on to the next senator, which is Senator Smith.
Alright, so a few updates on things I've been working on. So I'm pretty passionate about student leadership, so throughout the course of the summer and the semester I've been promoting opportunities for students to get involved within MSSA. So over the summer, myself, Senator Hickey, Vice President Kremers, and former Senator Beltran presented at all 9 of the 2-day orientations for new students to get them pumped about joining student government, so that was pretty fun. I have been attending every single RHA meeting to give updates for this semester, along with Senator Trainee and Senator Cronin. Also, over the summer, I was thinking of ideas to get more people in the residence halls involved, and so I brought this idea to student affairs and the other residential life senators to maybe create like a liaison system where each res life senator is kind of delegated to be a liaison for each area of the residence halls. And so we have implemented that system. So at every area meeting, which is the area director, the 2 hall directors, and then all of the community advisors in each area, they get together for a meeting, and then senators are giving MSSA updates to the CAs so that they can tell their residents, and hopefully we can get more people involved and keep them informed on what we're working on. And then also at the RHA meetings that I've been attending, sitting in the back, hanging out, listening to some of the concerns that the RHA representatives have brought forth. One of them was a topic that we discussed in our student affairs meeting, but there was not much follow-up on it, and that was the concern with like what printing money happens, that to that $20 if they don't use it, what happens to it the next semester. So I'm going to work on following up with that so that we can get that information to residents and other people, because I'm sure others want to know. And then the idea of having ATM machines in the residence halls was brought up a few weeks ago, and I will yield to Senator Trainee because he recently had a meeting.
So I had a meeting with Cindy Janey, the director of Res Life today. And it was a pretty long meeting. I brought up the issue of ATMs in res halls, kind of through some of the CSU. And some students approached me wanting ATMs in the res halls just for to get money. She said no to that idea because of the safety concerns of having money, ATM machines, the cost of having it. The CSU, I'm sure, is contracted. I don't know, the banks and the CSU kind of want them to be there, but they don't want them to be in the res halls. And she just kind of put down that idea, and then I had other issues that I put up, and I'll say that later.
Vice President Kremers, you've got a question?
Yeah, so we talked about this issue, the ATM, in our last cabinet meeting, right? And like the safety issue is right, because you'd have to have an armored vehicle come in every day or week or something along those lines, and then also you'd have to send out an RFP for that space because every ATM in the CSU essentially rents that space. So that's how that would work.
Are there any questions for Senator Schmidt? All right, Senator Trenny?
I got a few updates. First, I have Jean Clark, the Learning Community Director here. So I recently had a meeting with her. One issue that residents, all students, always bring up to me is about connecting resources, knowing the programs on campus that can get you higher grades, higher involvement rates. And one program that I'm part of is Learning Community Programs, and it's a wonderful program. I get involved. We did a service learning project a few months ago. I met. She can speak more about learning programs. I'll yield to her, but essentially, I just looked about how we can expand the programs, how we can better market them. She's doing a fantastic job with the program as is, and I look forward to seeing the growth of the program, the better marketing them. One idea I gave to her is putting mailbox slips in the mailboxes and orientation and stuff like that. And then another report I have is, I'll yield to her. Yeah, you can speak more about the program if you want. If you want, just give her a little information.
Yeah. So, Senator Cronin, is that your last name? Yeah. I would say, okay. So as Senator Cronin said, opportunity for more learning communities all the time, so I appreciate, I'll look forward to having a conversation with you about that, but open to ideas, so if you have them, I'm sure that Senator Trenny or Cronin will be interested, and or Senator Christensen, who also was involved with the learning community program, so.
Okay, so another update I have is I was part of the bookstore advisory committee meeting that was yesterday, and we had a pretty long discussion about the textbook reserve program and how to better market it, and students that don't know it. We're going to work on getting advertisement up in the residence halls and off-campus people in CSU. One issue that was brought up is we have a lot of money left in the program and it's not being spent, and that's more of a David thing. And then the other update I have is I met with Director Cindy Janey of the Res Halls, talked about ATMs that was shut down. Another issue I brought up to her was what's going to be done with the space with the old dining hall. And she said she would come back to MSSA and tell us what she's going to do with it, but long story short, they're going to get rid of Krosky Commons. Yeah, they're going to get rid of the building, and then they're going to put something there, and then they're going to build dorms above it, so there's going to be more dorm space. Hopefully she said that hopefully we'll take out the Stadium Heights eventually. That's all I have.
Are there any questions for Senator Trenny? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Senator Higgs.
Hey everyone, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm also the president for the Graduate Student Coalition, which is an RSO for grad students. We are a social networking group for grad students to kind of mingle and get to know each other because most grad students kind of stay in their departments and don't reach out to other departments. That's what we're here for. But I also want us to start becoming a resource for undergraduates. So a lot of you consider grad school. If you're thinking about grad school, we want to be here as a resource to come to if you have any questions about the process, about the GRE, about being a graduate assistant. That's why we want to kind of bridge that gap between graduate students and undergraduate students. Some of the projects that we're working on is kind of revamping the graduate orientation. One of our members actually has a big passion for it, so I'm going to let him kind of take the reins on that. I also want to start a mentorship program, which I kind of mentioned earlier about having that resource. So like I said, if you have a specific program you're interested in, whether that be public administration, business, so on and so forth, I want to kind of match that student up with a grad student to kind of like just figure out what's going on in that program, kind of get the ropes shown, if that's a saying, I don't know. Another thing we want to work on is a graduate garage sale. So a lot of the times at the end of the year, a lot of people just kind of throw away their stuff they don't need. So I'm hoping to get that donated to us where we can actually sell it on campus for really cheap for anyone that's in need of furniture, anyone that's in need of TVs, because I see a lot of TVs or couches just get thrown into dumpsters. So instead of doing that, if they can get that donated to us, and with that money, we can either start building our budget because we have no budget, or we can donate it to a good cause. So it's kind of, we don't really need a budget, so I don't see us needing that money. And going off of that, we are trying to work on becoming a community service event, or a community service-based group. So that means our meetings aren't like the standard meeting where you meet in a room and just kind of go over business. We meet during community service events. So this coming Sunday is the Holiday Carnival that's put together by the Community Engagement Office. And we're going to actually have a table there where we're going to be doing face painting. And if you don't know what the Holiday Carnival is, It's when families can come to the ballroom, just play games. I think the age is up to 5th grade, so it's just a bunch of little kids running around having a lot of fun. We did it last year for Dance Marathon. We're doing it again for Dance Marathon, but it's a side plug. But we're going to be there. GSC's going to be there, face painting and doing like plastic or bowling. So like I said, just kind of like a community service-based event, so we can give our efforts to the community, and then at the end of the event we'll do like a debrief and then actually go over business if we need to. So if you're graduating senior this semester, next semester, or you're just interested in grad school in general, you have a resource here, sitting right here to talk to, if you have any questions about that. With that, I yield.
Are there any questions? All right, no questions. Move on to our last Senator report. Senator Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, so last meeting I gave you guys an update on what I've been working on more recently. However, a lot of you guys don't know this. I'm actually resigning as senator. I'll get into the reason why in announcements, but because I'm resigning, I haven't had much time to take on any other big projects, I guess. And so this being my last meeting, I figured I'd give you guys a real quick summary on what I actually have accomplished this semester. Make it real quick for you guys. But obviously, I didn't even really know what MSSA was before I ran for this, but so I've done a lot of advertising, like word of mouth, passing out planners, and then representing us at events and stuff like that. Something us off-campus centers never really mentioned, but at the beginning of the semester, a international student came up to us with a really pretty rough problem. I don't want to get into it because it was a real big situation. But he was in a bad situation with the apartments he was living in, and he wasn't sure if it was a legal issue or not, and no one else was really able to help him, including our student attorney. So we went to the off-campus centers. We helped him out, gave him advice, and I even helped him find a lawyer, which is pretty cool. Because that felt good to help someone out. We then met with, later, a couple weeks ago, met with Patty from the Washington Park Neighborhood Association. I told you guys about that last report, but she was really happy because apparently she hadn't had any student representation to speak with her in like a number of years. So it was pretty cool that she was like able to tell us what was going on. And she told us that me and Mindora, that everything was going well for her. And then me and Mindora also helped advertise for the Washington Park Neighborhood Cleanup event through the International Center and word of mouth. And so there was a really good turnout, Patty said, so it was, yeah, a success. But essentially, this is my last meeting, so that's kind of what I've done this semester. A lot of other little things, but those are the bigger things. So to that, I yield.
Are there any questions for Senator Meyer? All right, no other questions. We've officially made it through Senator reports, and we will be moving into our vacancy election. So if anybody's here, okay, real quick, I do realize that it is past 6 p.m., and I'm very sorry that it is going past 6 p.m. So per our Constitution, we are not allowed to vote to table or to move our vacancy election because it's been announced to the students 2 weeks prior, and if they're here to run, this isn't something that we can just vote to move. So this is something that you are going to have to say. We are going to do an election. As long as everybody's okay with it, though, I'm going to try to moderate some of the time. So I'm going to put time limits on the total amount of time that we're allowed to have discussion for a certain amount of stuff. If you'd like to continue speaking, just raise your hand and move to add more time. Is everybody okay with that? It's very informally? Yeah? No? Yeah? Okay, cool. Just for the sake of time. Is there anybody here to run for an open vacancy of science, engineering, and technology? Please stand up. All right, so I'm going to have you come over here and approach the podium. I'm just going to limit the time by 20 minutes. Okay, real quick, just to clarify how this is going to work. First off, thank you all for coming. How this is going to work, you'll each have 1 minute to introduce yourself, talk to us about why you're excited to be here. It's your opening statement. After that 1 minute, we'll get into questions, and so we're going to take questions. So, I met you not too long ago. What is your name? Patrick. So Patrick is going to go first. We're going to go down the line, and then we'll go in reverse order when it comes to questions. So we'll keep going back and forth when it comes to questions. Everybody will take turn answering. Are there any questions with how that's going to work? All right. Well, Patrick, if you're comfortable, I'm going to allow you to go first. You'll have 1 minute for an opening statement. I will cut you off if you go over a minute.
I'm Patrick. I'm sure you all recognize me from before, running for CSET Senator. My major is Computer Information Technology. And, well, I'm passionate about a lot of stuff, including the stuff I mentioned before. But also, CSET is kind of a weird monster when you think about it. It's got all sorts of loosely affiliated things with the focus on science. CIT itself is vastly understaffed in terms of faculty. One of my professors, he goes by Gloria because I can't pronounce his last name. He has everybody call him Dr. Gloria. So I mean, yeah. So
15 seconds.
He has 116 advisees. That needs to change. Now you.
All right.
My name is Curtis Gall. I am currently a third-year student here. I am a senior studying biology with an emphasis on zoology and minoring in marketing. For this year, I have been attending the Student Affairs Committee, and I have joined the composting subcommittee. I wanted to run for this position because originally I wasn't sure that going to a university would be the right option for me considering my background, but it's been a welcoming environment offering a lot of opportunities and personal growth for me, and I want to give back and give a voice to the students and make my contribution in return for that. From insight I've gained in my student affairs meetings, I feel that being a senator would be a good opportunity to do that.
Hey guys, my name is Joseph. I am a sophomore here with a biochem and finance major. In the past, I have been volunteering off campus with Red Cross, not Red Cross, with Feed My Starving Children and Kiwanis Lights. With Feed My Starving Children and Kiwanis Lights, and I was involved with learning community. Recently, I'm the president of my floor, and I'm doing other leadership stuff, but I'm hoping this is another step forward for me to represent the students and take more leadership opportunities in the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your opening statements. We'll now open up for questions from the senators. So you'll each take a turn answering the questions. Are there any questions from our senators? Senator Vega.
I just want to ask you guys, so what's the biggest issue you guys see in your college, the CSET? Just curious.
The biggest issue I see in CSET, not just with our college, with other colleges, is underrepresentation of women. That is something that needs to be improved. We also have some of our professors have been found to, within other schools, gladly not here. Within other schools have been found to sexually harass women, and that is something that is unacceptable. To improve that, I've talked to the Women's Center to bring a program here that could potentially improve that within the CSET, and that's something I'll be working with her more going forward.
Just so everybody's aware, keeping track. Curtis, you'll be up next. Just so everybody's aware, I did put a 20-minute time limit on these questions, so I will gavel at the end of 20 minutes. Again, you can move for more time if you feel that you want more time for questions. Curtis, you are up.
One of the issues that I would like to address would actually be the printing. I'd like to go back to the old system that we had. I know that at least frequently among biology majors, we need to have special printing formats such as one-sided for research papers. And it was something that was available before, and it's something that I've heard complained about a lot by students, is the fact that they need to, even though they often work on their own computers, they need to log into a school computer and transfer it to the school computer and then print off of that. And so just to streamline the process and to avoid the very numerous technical difficulties students deal with, I would like to work on going back to the system we had before of being able to manage printing at the print stations.
Well, you know, I'll explain my passionate issue with the story. My first year here, I didn't meet with an advisor until 1 month before the end of the year. Yes, I managed to register for class 2 times without meeting with an advisor in CSET, normally where you need to have a registration access code. Luckily, I managed to get an override from Ken Adams, who has been an angel in a lot of this, to get registration to go through so I could get a code from Accessibility Resources to do my registration. Another issue is the advisors. The integrated advising program does not seem to be working the way it should be. I should not have been able to, or I should not have had so much trouble to meet with an advisor for the first year. On top of that, it's weird that we don't have a computer science department. I mean, we do, but it has like 3 classes. Moorhead somehow has a computer science department, but we don't. And I'm kind of confused as to that because a lot of the professors do want to teach in a computer science type setting. But so, I mean, I'd like to see it back, but I guess it would come with demand.
All right, I've got on the speakers list, we've got Senator Warner, Senator Truney, Senator Quintan, Senator Paul, Senator MTS. Senator Warner, your questions.
Thank you. How do you plan to reach out to your constituents?
Actually, I already reached out to them quite a bit. I guess I've been more focused on the first year students because I see the problems, well, I've experienced the problems that have occurred within getting with CSET and getting things started. This year, thankfully, I haven't seen many people deal with the extreme problems that I had with registration, with meeting with an advisor, with all that stuff. Although, again, the advisor caseload is rather extreme, and a lot of people have complained about that, where you write an email to your advisor that's like a page long and you get a 1-sentence reply that had nothing to do with what you were talking about. So that, I guess that's another concern that I noticed from other people in CSET from my classes that I've been in.
I feel that my greatest resource for accessing my constituents would be the people that I've already met through RSOs and through classes. I've met a great number of people that way, and I've gotten to know them fairly well through shared classes, projects, exams, that kind of thing. And a number of the people I know are in leadership positions themselves, like running study groups or running RSOs, that kind of thing. They have access to a lot of people themselves. And it's a great way to be able to communicate with a lot of people by running through others who have access to more people directly.
Personally, I would begin by going to the CSET office and introducing myself there. Secondly, I would find out the meeting times within the different groups that are within CSET. For example, we have Society of Women Engineers, find out how often they meet, go there, introduce myself, and tell them the kinds of things that I can possibly do for them, and just reach out to different groups that way. Thank you.
Senator Quintana. All right. Sorry, Senator Trini. Senator Trini.
What committees would you join if you became senator?
Right now, I'm part of SAC, and I'm part of the budget committee, and that works well with my finance committee, with my finance background. But I mean, I haven't really looked into other committees, but right now that's a committee that I really enjoy at the moment, and that's a committee I'm going to move forward with.
Currently, I am involved with the Student Affairs Committee, and I plan to maintain attendance in that, along with the composting subcommittee, which I am currently on. Additionally, I would like to become involved in the Environmental Committee and possibly the Marketing and PR Committee as a way to better provide the information to students that they have access to MSSA and that they have a place to voice their concerns so that they can be addressed.
Well, other than the constitutionally required committee that former Senator Mercer was on, which seems to be escaping my thought right now, I would also be on the CSET advisory committee, obviously, because, CSET senator, that makes sense. I would also like to do the technology fee subcommittee, because my brain's always going when I'm seeing, why are they doing it like this? They could save money and make it work better if they did it like this in reference to things like the Wi-Fi or the way cable is hooked up or that kind of stuff. I'm also interested in the Student Affairs Committee, and I'm not sure if this is actually under the jurisdiction of MSSA or not, but the Student Conduct Board, because it was unclear about what or who would appoint to that or whatever it was, because it just said not to be listed, so that'd be something I'd be interested in if it's possible.
Now, Senator Quintana.
All right, can you tell us what your biggest strength and weakness is and how this position would help with that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start with my biggest weakness. And this kind of plays into why I want to be on MSSA. I'm a non-traditional student, but I kind of fall in the weird middle part where I don't have children, but I'm not fresh out of high school. So it's kind of hard for me to connect with people, and I've been looking to establish an RSO to help with that. The non-traditional students, if that makes sense. They have a good program, but I don't need something to do with my child on a Saturday or take family portraits or anything. And I guess my biggest strength, not to toot my own horn or whatever vernacular you want to use, is my intelligence and ability to really kind of slow down and think things through. But my brain is never quiet. Always working on problems.
I feel that my biggest strength would absolutely be my work ethic. I take on a great deal of work and I excel under a great workload, and I always ensure that any task I do is done well and thoroughly, and I take pride in it being done properly, which kind of plays into my weakness at the same time. The fact that sometimes I have too much of an attention to detail. I will take longer on things than perhaps I should because I have a drive to do them perfectly.
I would say my biggest weakness is the same thing that he said. I do tend to strive towards perfection, which in many cases I have found myself taking too long on certain things and certain assignments, but that has helped me so far in my grades. And I'd say my biggest strength is organization. I would say I'm very organized. I like to keep my things neat and in order, and I like to keep. I don't like it when things get messy at all. So I'd say that's my biggest strength.
All right. We have 8 minutes left in this, so please streamline your questions and responses. Senator Paul?
I yield 3 minutes.
All right, Senator MTS?
Can I have a question and a comment?
Just a question. Your comment?
I'd like an answer because he said that you cannot print out through a computer of your own laptop. I will answer that.
I get what you're about to say. You can do that when we actually have the discussion. Just for now, please ask your question.
Okay, the question is, so the biggest problem in CSAT department nowadays I've heard that the number of students are increasing, but the number of faculties are not increasing. Have you ever thought about that aspect, or have you ever thought about how that could be improved because of the budgeting issues that we have? Have you ever?
One thing that I have heard is that there are a lot of teachers that are on tenure, I have a close friend who's dealing with such issue. Their teacher is not putting as much effort into teaching them, and that's allowing them to not do as well as they would be able to. So I wouldn't recommend taking the teachers off of tenure, but I would recommend going through a more extensive recruitment for these professors in order to find the most well-rounded individual who loves teaching and who will be dedicated to the students even if they're not on tenure, even if they are on tenure.
That is absolutely an issue that I have noticed. In fact, I just had a discussion with one of my teachers about it today. We only got through about 75% of the lessons that he planned to get through because of having additional classes versus when he originally prepared this specific class. Having more students makes it take longer. And I feel that it is very important to look into possible solutions for lowering class sizes and allowing teachers to have a closer connection with the students. Because it's certainly noticeable, like in the biology classes, when you get into the very low levels, like the 101, you have a lecture hall of hundreds of people, the professor has no idea who you are. You get into the higher sciences and you have maybe 20 people in the class, the professor gets to know you very well. And that's somewhat necessary for the technical classes that come in higher CSAT levels. But when you increase the numbers of students to the numbers of professors, you really lose the quality of the education there.
So I actually had the opportunity to witness one of the hiring things that IT did after one of my classes last week. Hired a professor, again, the name seems to be escaping me right now. They're pretty good about the questions about that, but I think that the real issue is they're kind of misusing TAs a lot. I mean, again, it's good to have them in the lower level classes, but I don't even know how many TAs there are for Math 98, and I took Math 98. And when you're doing a class that large for something so essential as intermediate algebra, it does not work well. And I was seeking out help for trigonometry this year since about the 3rd week and could not get a straight answer from anybody on what I should do, which resulted in me having to drop the class, although oddly enough, somehow I can still take calculus next semester, which is weird. And I guess it's just going to take more manpower, but then costs are going to go up, and it's kind of an icky thing. And I don't know. There's no good solution to all of this, I guess.
Senator Vega, still have your question?
I just have a comment if that's allowable.
Keep your comments, we'll save our comments for like when we're having discussions, so I understand, if you want to talk to them about it individually, that's fine, but just to streamline the process.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Are there any other questions? All right, seeing no other questions, you're now going to each have 1 minute for a closing statement. Patrick, since you spoke last, you'll be able to go first.
So I know I brought up a number of issues related to CSET, but I also have some other passions that I've been, pursuing in my time here. Obviously, the non-traditional students. Res life. I'm probably going to live in the dorms for my entire time here, and I've kind of grown a passion to helping my floor mates and stuff there succeed. And actually, later tonight, I'm putting a TV in our dorm, in our lounge. And also, the problems with women's issues. But I guess I shouldn't call them women's issues. They're everybody's issues because, women are half the people. Yeah, I guess I just have a lot of passion, and if I misspeak as a result, I do apologize for that. But I have passion. Can't help it.
I feel that given my strong leadership background, serving in the Marines, serving as a community advisor, and given my drive to excel, that I could work well in this position, and I hope that you give me the opportunity to serve with you and give a voice to the students in the CSET department. But regardless of the outcome of it, I would like to thank you for your time and assure you that I will remain involved in MSSA as a senator or as not.
Me, I am devoted to giving my time to other people, even when I'm not required to. Back home, on winter breaks, summer break, I give my time to my group home because I am a consistent volunteer. This is something that's been part of my character. It's been something that's been a part of me for a while, and I will grow. I will continue to find more opportunities to learn and become a well-rounded individual and lead and do great things. Thanks.
All right, so now the three of you, please step out of the hallway. There's some seats just a little bit further down. Hang out there for a little while. We're going to have a discussion, and we'll move into a vote after that. All right, we good with 10 minutes for discussion? Yes. Yeah? All right. Well, maximum 10 minutes. You can move some more time if you need it. That's okay. Yeah, raise your placards if you like to speak. I'm gonna make speakers look cool. Hold on a second. I'm gonna wait for. Okay, the door's closed. All right, Senator Maurer.
Make it real quick. I really like Joe and Curtis. I don't like that Joseph could not dress up them. But otherwise, love them.
Senator Warner.
Okay, my favorite of the three was Curtis. I think that he has many outlets to reach out to when it comes to reaching out to his constituents. And he kind of had a plan for that too. Like he said, he already serves on committees. I know that Joseph does also, but I wanted to point that out. And Curtis really kept stressing actually giving the students a voice, giving his constituents a voice. He kept stressing that, and I think that he did the most stressing of that during his time up there. And he did mention too that he will remain involved in MSSA too, so that shows his commitment right there. And then I would just like to say that I thought Patrick had a lot of side stories, and I thought that he kind of avoided some of the questions. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Yield.
Senator Hickey.
So I personally would vote for Curtis, kind of going off what Monica had said. I think he's more efficient in his answers, and I think his thought process is very put together. And I think that efficiency is something that like needs to be maintained, especially in a meeting like this where we have so much to cover in a limited amount of time. One other thing I really liked about him as well is I feel like he understands the areas that need to be looked into and need a senator's attention without outright criticizing the faculty or the students in those areas. And I think that is a very respectful and delicate way of assisting those areas. And I just didn't notice that same delicacy from other candidates.
All right, Senator Diaz.
So I'm gonna get really straightforward. I didn't really like any of them because I thought that most of the answers were spread out and weren't very prepared, and they had very minimum idea about CSET department because they are targeting every other department as a whole, but nothing specified, and also most of them dodged the questions. Compared to all these three, yes, Curtis stands out for me because he is involved more, and I'm not gonna say personal stuff, but I've seen his answers to be a bit more precise than other three. If I have to vote, that's what I'm saying. If I have to vote, which I have to, that's what I'm gonna say.
I'll clarify too for that. If you'd like, so everybody knows, you can vote no confidence, meaning that you are not voting for anybody, you're just not comfortable with any of them. So don't feel as if you have to vote on anybody.
So which I feel like because their answers, all three of them were like spread out and they had, I think they weren't prepared. It's my opinion because I'm in CSET department. I feel like they should have done more homework and should have known about the specific department rather than the university as a whole, because as you have to get through CSET and then to the other departments. So I apologize for that.
It's fine. Okay, we've got 6 minutes left. Senator Paul.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Naim said, and I would like go for Curtis as I think he seemed more confident than Joseph and Patrick on sidetrack. I don't know what he was saying. And he said something, he said something stuff about like computer science, but it will be implemented from fall 2018. I talked to Dr. Said, who is the chair of IT department. If we had known this from before, he shouldn't have brought this up. And the other thing was about advising. He said there is a called MSSA, North Star STEM Alliance, who helps the people, the students who normally like do bad grades, and they're like the advisor, Ken Adams, Tracy. They help out the students with their courses and like do one-to-one advising with them. And Joseph, I talked to him before. He's nice, but I'd go for Curtis.
Proxy, CG?
I've been usually sitting in the gallery for the last few meetings and just listening to what the Senate has been discussing and being involved for the last couple of years. I kind of pretty confidently understand the process. And Joseph's been here on this, sitting in the gallery for the last, I would say, 4 or 5 weeks, and he's been asking me questions of, why are they yielding or stuff like that, like questions about parliamentary procedure, questions about how MSSA is run, and he's very curious of how he could make a big impact on campus by being a senator. I think his presence in the last couple weeks have been noticed by sitting in the gallery, and his curiosity of trying to make a difference on campus. So he's going to get my vote, just being present and being aware of the issues on campus and the issues that we've been talking about the last couple weeks. So I'll yield with that.
All right, we got Senator Vega, Senator Trani, and Senator, MTS. Senator Vega.
Well, in the sense, like Joe spoke, I agree with him in the sense that Joseph has shown that he's been actually working towards this. Like he mentioned, he contacted several organizations before, which is something like I appreciate. Like you're going to look into issues you work with and you show like, and this is an actual like issue in CSET. Like we have a huge underrepresentation not only like for women, which are minority, but also for other minorities. There also, I will not discard like Patrick, but he actually also brought up another important issue in CSET, which was the advising. For those who are in CSET, at least from my department, I'm not trying to be shady here, so I'm not sure if I should give the name, but the advising could improve, and that's something CSET senators should be like looking into it, right? And the faculty is some another issue, not that they should be looking into it. But yes, with that, I will say is that my third candidate will be Joseph in the sense that he seemed more like a hard worker in the sense that he's been actually like doing progress towards it. So yeah, with that, go.
No, try.
I just wanted to say that I liked Curtis and Joseph a lot more than Patrick. But they dodged a lot of the questions, and if they raised their own questions, we all had answers for them. Especially on the printing, the advising, just the CSAT in general. I don't think they came well prepared. And even on the MSSA side, yes, they're part of committees, but I don't think they understand the full process and what this job entails besides just outreaching to departments. But if we did have to vote, I kind of like Joseph.
It's more of a comment. I mean,
sure.
Let's not. If we want to rush to get a senator, we might be doing it in the wrong day. I don't know. I know we shouldn't delay this vote to any further, but I'm just hoping let's not rush to get a senator just to fill up a spot and go downhill. I'm sorry.
All right, we got 2 minutes left. Senator Quintana.
All right, so I just wanted to say, like each of them, for example, Patrick, like when he mentioned his strength, that was passion, and you could tell like he was really passionate about what he was saying. But at the end of the day, you have to take your passion. That's why I really like Senator Johnson's questions, because like my question was that tell me your strength, but like tie that to like your role. Like let's say you are in the College of, business senator, like tie that to like. You have to be able to like be articulate when you're speaking, and I feel like you did not do a good job of that. And I feel like this senator should be articulating like the way you speak, no matter how passionate you are to what you're doing. And then Curtis,
less than a minute.
Curtis was very passionate about he knew what he was talking about. To me, I would vote Curtis, but then Joseph as well, like Joe Wolf mentioned, he's been coming every single time. So like I was really like intrigued into what he was gonna say, but to be honest, he did not like meet the requirements for me just because I feel like you've been coming here a lot. You should know what, like, you should dress a red tie. Like, I don't know. Like, that just me.
All right, that uses up all of our time. If there's anybody who wants to motion for more time,
I make a motion for more time.
How much more time you want?
2 minutes, yeah. 2 minutes.
All right, this motion for 2 minutes, take me a second. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Senator President Abdul, any dissent for 2 more minutes? All right, sold. Senator Hickey.
One thing I just wanted to say, because I feel like it's been brought up a couple points during discussion, is that they're not very prepared. But as someone who went through vacancy elections, like I just feel like you aren't super prepared, because coming from the student body into MSSA, a lot of times you don't know about it, because like as much as I hate it, we just don't have great recognition in the student body. That's something we're constantly working for. But like I think anybody who's been elected to a vacancy like myself and like other senators can say that like, I mean, I think I improved, and I think I got to know my job pretty well and got to understand it pretty well. You just like, you may not know it at first, but you learn it and you pick it up really quickly. I don't know, that's just what I wanted to say, because I feel like if they're grossly underprepared, that's one thing, but if they just don't know all the minutia of the position, that's something else.
President Abdulaziz.
I just want to say, like, I personally will be voting for Joseph, but I also wanted to say that, like, I sense a lot of hesitancy around the room. Do not, like, feel free to vote no confidence. That is something you can do. If you truly believe that the 3 candidates we have here will not fit the position, feel free to vote no confidence. You.
Senator Turney.
I just want to say quickly, I think we should vote no confidence. When I ran for my vacancy, I studied the position a little bit more. Like, I didn't know the people involved. I didn't know how to do it. But I looked at the bylaws, I talked to a few senators, I knew more about MSSA and more about the committees than I did before. And just knowing your department isn't enough for the job. You need to know how to make your way as a senator and what to do. And I don't think any of them are quite.
30 seconds. Thompson.
I'd like to say that we also have a retreat coming up, and so if you guys are confident in their ability
priorities as a senator. If you guys do vote them into senator, they're going to learn about their position more at the retreat. So that's that.
All right. We're out of time. That was pretty good. Good job, streamlining group. That was very good. Okay, so please write down with piece of paper. When you're voting for, remember, write their name legibly or write no confidence so that we can clearly see.
I can read.
Does anybody want 5 minutes? Does anybody want like 3 minutes while we count? Yes. Yeah? 3 minutes? Yes. Go ahead and take 3 quick. Do not leave. Need you to do more vote. Please take a You got it. Do we have everybody in here? Oh, that's what you're talking about.
I legit, that's what I did. Based off of nothing. Based off of nothing. That's all I did.
All right, everybody take your seat.
Did you clean them? Thank you.
Take your seats, please. There has not been an election. Hold on, calm down. What this means, it's not because of any specific way, there wasn't a certain vote. The groups there wasn't a majority vote. Meaning we'll now move back into discussion. We will discuss again until we can come to until we can come to a majority decision. So, this does not mean, we just took a bathroom break over, I'm sorry if that wasn't clear.
We just had a recess.
You can't leave the room.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I wasn't very clear. What I had intended for was that we could take a bathroom break while we were counting the votes. But at this point, without moving for a recess, we cannot take another break.
I just have a question. So if the majority vote is no confidence, does that mean there would be an election
Yes.
at all, or we'd have to continue to?
That's a great question. Thank you. If the majority vote is no confidence, that means that will end the voting, and there just won't be an election. And the next time we'll have an election will be January 10th.
What's the amount of people that have to be around the table to vote? Because I know the last bus leaves at like 7 or something, and lots of people are going to be leaving.
We're currently at 24 people, and the minimum we need is 24.
So what happens?
If somebody leaves, we will break quorum when we can't vote. But that's quorum for how many people are required to be here. Because, like, for example, I can't get 4 senators together and have 3 out of the 4 vote for something. We were messing around looking up in there. President Abdulaziz?
Can I ask for a tally of the votes, specifically the vote of no confidence?
All right. Is there any dissent to sharing the tally of the votes? Raise your hand if you dissent to this. All right. I don't know if there's a Robert's rule on that, so I'm just going to share it because nobody cares.
That's only thing you wanted.
Yeah, just a count. We're not, no name. So the count that we were at, we had, Curtis had 7 votes, Joseph had 11 votes, no confidence had 5 votes, and we had 1 abstain. And by abstaining, that person brought the required vote down to less. They just didn't vote. That make sense? Patrick did not receive a single vote.
What's majority?
You're going to need 13. You got 22 votes. 12. Sorry. Assuming that there's a continued abstain. 12.
Since one candidate got 0, he's out of consideration.
That is correct. So we'll be down to Curtis and Joseph. So we open into discussion, and then when you're ready, we'll just go ahead and vote again. Senator Bob.
Yeah, erase it.
All right. Bring it back. Senator Bob.
Joseph has been in not 4 meetings, but since September he comes to every meeting, and a lot. Need to be specific. I didn't know what I was getting into when I was coming to. I didn't even know what position I was running for until Abdul told me the first meeting that we had, and I didn't know we had meetings, and I didn't know how to get around with office hours and stuff like that. So I feel like you guys should just give him a chance, you know. Like Erica said, during the retreat we can like brief him and stuff like that. He's like the only one that comes to every meeting that we have, so ton more, always be.
President Abdul?
I definitely agree with that. I think that Joseph is a good candidate, especially the fact that, like, not just as president, but Okay, question, point of information. What happens when he leaves the room? No one.
We won't, not going to be able to have a vote, and we'll move the vote to January 10th.
Can we vote right now? Can we vote by hand?
Is everybody comfortable voting right now? Yes. All right. You have to do so. All right. We can take a motion to vote by raising hands. All right. I hear a couple seconds. Please raise the placard if you dissent to this. All right. We're moving to a vote by hand. We're going to go in the order that they are up there. So it's going to go Curtis and Joseph, then no confidence, then abstain. All in favor of Curtis, please raise your hand. All right, all in favor of Joseph, please signify by raising your hand. Keep them raised, keep them raised. All right, no confidence? Abstain? All right, been an election. Congratulations, Joseph.
Just wait.
Bring in the sacrifices.
She never did anything.
Oh, no, I think that was a motion of privilege to take 5. So, that resulted. All right, congratulations, all 3 of you. Thank you again for all of your hard work and dedication to coming here and speaking, so we do appreciate it. And also for waiting on the hallway. I'm sorry that it takes so long. There has been an election, and we would like to congratulate Joseph. Congratulations. Joseph, we're going to have you swear in, so if you would, please step up to the podium. And in an oath-like manner, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Joseph Samoa,
Will represent and serve
will represent and serve
the students of Minnesota State University, Mankato
the students of Minnesota State University, Mankato
in student life and academic needs.
in student life and academic needs,
And I will uphold the mission,
and I will uphold the mission,
Constitution,
the Constitution,
and bylaws
and bylaws
of the Minnesota State Student Association.
of the Minnesota State Student Association.
I so affirm.
I so affirm.
Congratulations. All right, we're going to move into the last part of our wall. Is there anything for new business? Surprising. All right, now new business, we'll move into announcements. Any announcements?
So, this Friday, the community advisor application for the 2018-2019 academic year opens up, and I'm on the CA selection committee, and we're looking to talk to different groups on campus. We're really aiming towards marketing towards underrepresented students that might want to pursue this job. So please let me know if you are part of any student organizations, or you have any suggestions of any that we should look out to or reach out to. And if you're interested in applying, let me know, and I can answer your questions.
Santel?
So Asian Americans Affairs is having a holiday dinner going on right now from 6 to 9 for food. And yeah, it's in the MCC right next to the state. Yeah, right now after this meeting. So for food, I'm going. So come to follow me.
So guys, I am resigning as senator. Please don't cry. Don't get emotional. I am moving to Utah for an internship for a semester. And odds are I'll be back, but there's a small chance if I really like Utah, I'll not come back. But I probably will. We'll see. But yeah. I'll miss you guys.
Yes, the African Student Association are having a banquet this Friday at the American Inn. There will be various food from different countries from Africa. that will be served at that banquet. We'll have different forms of entertainment as well. But however, it is $10, but it might be a little bit expensive. I know we're college students, but it's also for an after party which will be happening after the banquet as well. We have a theme which is Coming to America. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie that has Eddie Murphy in it. So if you guys want to dress up like that, you don't have to, but it would be nice if you want to dress up like that and look nice. There is the link for ISVP. You can see Samson is our president. If you want to do that, you can see him or come to me, or you can buy a ticket at the door as well. I hope to see all of you guys there. Come and enjoy. And with that, I yield.
Senator Keaton?
Just to add on to what Vendor said, I would really appreciate it if you guys please make an effort to be there. It's at 6 p.m. on Friday. I know you guys don't have classes at that time unless you're going. This is part of diversity. I promise you it's going to be really fun. And it's our last event of the semester, so I really appreciate all you guys.
Who's going to be it? Mr. Wolf, did you still have something?
No, I never raised my hand.
All right, that it is.
Just remind us of stress busters next week. We've got some pet therapy going on Monday. Grab your lunch, 11 to 1 o'clock down the Hearth Lounge. We're going to have a violinist and a cello player there. Nice little music to going on overall. We've got late night breakfast on Monday night at 10 o'clock, 10 to 11 or until the line stays. We'd love to have you there too. Massage therapy going on as well. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you can sign up in front of the doors in either 201, 202, 203, right down that way. And on behalf of the CSU, just wanted to say thanks for a great semester. Appreciate you guys' dedication, everything you do for the students, and hope you have good luck for you in your finals. Thank you.
Senator Oden Fleming?
Yes. So the breakfast is Monday?
There's one of the residence halls on Sunday, I think, usually, and then the one that we sponsor is Monday night here in the MAVRIK.
And the cello one was for what again? I didn't catch the name of the event. The cello and violinist is for what event?
That's part of our Stress Busters over on Monday from 11 to 1 in the Hearth Lounge.
Thank you.
Senator Trenny?
This is more a question for Mark. Mark, do you have any idea if they're going to use the smoothie bags again? If you know that.
I don't think for any of those activities, but I don't know for sure. I can ask Terry about that.
Yeah, it was a nice hit today in the dining hall.
Yep. I'm sure since they purchased them, they're going to be using them for events.
Thank you.
The president of MSSA?
Last thing, Faisal stand up, Jacob stand up. Please give a round of applause for Jacob for serving for the semester and Faisal for
There is no attendance because it would be silly because it's 7 o'clock. Meeting adjourned.
Wait, I'm